Chapter 49-24. While speaking, Demon Lord Sure waved his left hand, and Demon Blade Sure let out an explosive sound, and an extremely fierce black light immediately appeared. "Don't be anxious." Xiaohua's heart moved, and he hurriedly said, "Just protect Demon Lord Ju's body. Big Brother will go down and take a look." Demon Lord Sure was startled, and he was somewhat hesitant. Although he was not afraid of this holy light, he was still unwilling to see a holy weapon that could emit holy light in this world. However, since Xiaohua had spoken, Demon Lord Sure had no reason to not agree. He hurriedly shouted, "All right, Big Brother, be careful." While speaking, Demon Lord Sure withdrew his blade, and threw Demon Blade Sure to Demon Lord Ju's side. Ao. Countless demonic chi and blood demons roared as they rushed out from Demon Blade Sure, and crazily pounced towards the holy light. What was special was that the demonic chi that was fighting with the holy light was also boiling, as if it had seen its reinforcements, and it was energized as it pounced into the holy light. In just a moment, all of the holy light was suppressed by the demonic chi, and the entire space was once again filled with the smell of blood. Xiaohua slightly frowned, and urged his body to enter the demonic chi. After passing through the area where the demonic chi and the holy light were fighting, he finally arrived at a place of light. This place of light was not big, and was much smaller than the space enveloped by the demonic chi. When Xiaohua entered, a burst of hymns immediately sounded in his ears, and his spirit body with a pair of transparent wings hovered around him. Similarly, a bunch of unknown tree branches also appeared around him. A kind of otherworldly, holy, quiet, and peaceful feeling emerged from the bottom of Xiaohua's heart. "This is the angel that Vairocana Buddha spoke of?" Xiaohua squinted his eyes, and looked at the spirit body, and thought to himself, "These spirit bodies are like children, and they look much cuter than the Buddhist sex fairies. What is this song? Why does it sound like the Buddhist sex scriptures, and it gives off a sense of tranquility? What does this water flow mean?" After looking for a moment, Xiaohua released his divine sense, wanting to check the situation of the space, but when he released his divine sense, he found something strange. This space was different from the space enveloped by devil chi. Divine sense was somewhat restricted like some milk. However, Xiaohua's divine sense was strong enough that these restrictions were nothing. With a sweep of his divine sense, he could see everything within the space. In the blink of an eye, the previously adorable children's appearances had changed greatly. After Xiaohua's divine sense swept over them, the children's figures suddenly swelled up and transformed into robust human figures. However, this humanoid figure looked like a man, and looked like a general. Strange armor appeared on the surface of the bodies of these battle generals. Those transparent wings became thicker and longer. Long spears appeared in the hands of these battle generals. Within the light, thousands of battle generals had already formed a battle formation, as though they were on guard. Not to mention that these so-called war generals were merely spiritual projections in the holy light. Even if they were real spiritual bodies, how could Xiaohua fear them? Xiaohua only smiled faintly. With a wave of his hand, he blocked the holy light. The thousands of spiritual projections were annihilated, and the figure fell into the space. This was because he could already clearly see that at the bottom of the space, there was a fist-sized vessel. The holy light in the entire space was emitting from this vessel. However, Xiaohua still underestimated this vessel. When he was only 100 zhang away from the vessel, ha. Another resounding hymn pierced into Xiaohua's heart, like a long spear. Countless waves of holy light overflowed from the vessel. Within these waves, a human figure wearing a pure white robe stood on top of the vessel. This human figure's appearance was not very clear, but that pair of eyes full of compassion and pity were abnormally clear. Moreover, at the corner of those eyes, there was a faint teardrop. Following the appearance of this human figure, a burst of heaven and earth power spontaneously appeared and blocked Xiaohua's advance. Xiaohua was a little shocked. Right now, although he had not recovered his 10th grade essence power, he still had the strength of a middle 9th grade essence power. How could a normal spiritual treasures or possibly block his advance? Xiaohua could not help but secretly ponder. Who is this human figure? Why does a mere projection have such power? This holy light realm, is a little strange. No wonder this saint artifact was suppressed under the demon lord's remnant body. After looking for a while, Xiaohua raised his hand and saluted. Not caring if that projection could hear him, he looked into the eyes of that human figure and said, "Fellow Taoist, I, Xiaohua, greet you. Although I do not know what kind of almighty you are from the holy light realm, nor do I know what kind of saint artifact this vessel is. However, I do not have any evil intentions. I want to suppress the demon lord's body, so I cannot avoid releasing this saint artifact. And since this saint artifact is being suppressed, I believe that releasing this saint artifact will have a bad influence on the Dao sects of the Yilin continent. Therefore, I want to keep this saint artifact. In the future, if I have the fate to meet fellow Taoists from the Holy Light Realm, I will return this saint artifact to the Holy Light Realm." Xiaohua had a clear conscience, and his gaze was naturally clear. As he spoke, his eyelids did not even blink. What was a little strange was that as Xiaohua's voice landed, the hymn actually calmed down, and the spiritual body in the light figure once again turned into a child. "Then I will make my move." As Xiaohua spoke, he slowly raised his hand. Rumble! In the midst of a huge explosion, a hand of lightning light produced a strong restriction, imprisoning the space around the vessel. Once the restriction was in place, the hymn above the vessel once again became incomparably sharp. The holy light was extremely resplendent, as if it was going to pierce through the void. Even the gaze of that human figure of light changed a little. "My apologies." As Xiaohua spoke, he suddenly activated his magic power. Woo-woo! As if crying, as if in grief, the holy light was suddenly annihilated. That human figure of light also collapsed, entering the vessel. Once the light disappeared, the demonic energy and blood figure above Xiaohua's head loudly fell, enveloping the entire space. However, after a few breaths, the surging demonic energy, like a receding tide, fell into Demon Sovereign Ju's remnant body. Demon Sovereign Sure opened his mouth, and a blood light fell. Demon Sovereign Sure's remnant body rapidly shrank, turning into the size of a palm, and was sealed in a blood crystal. The Sacred Light Realm's artifact fell into Xiaohua's hand. A sweet fragrance wafted out from the artifact. This fragrance carried a medicinal smell. Xiaohua looked at it, and didn't think too much about it. He also sealed it with his hand, and threw it into the space. "Big brother." Demon Sovereign Sure happily landed, and said with a smile, "Little brother is fortunate to have not failed you." As he spoke, Demon Sovereign Sure handed the blood crystal to Xiaohua. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, cast a monthly vote, cast a recommendation vote, collect a gift, and thank you for all forms of support. In addition, I didn't have a full subscription group before, but under the suggestion of a fellow Taoist, I created a WeChat full subscription group. Before entering, please contact the Cultivation Gods customer service on WeChat, XYCQ1186258881CU, and let him add you to the full subscription group. Chapter 4925. Many thanks. Xiaohua also threw the blood crystal into the space. The demon-slaying body trembled, and he hurriedly said, "Big brother is too polite with me. You are me, and I am you." Xiaohua smiled and asked, "How is the demon saber?" "Although the demon saber is complete, it still needs to be refined." Demon Venerable Sure hurriedly replied, "However, refining the demon saber is far from being done in the Yilin continent. As far as I know, even the demon world can't do it. Another heavy responsibility." Xiaohua looked around and smiled. "I'll leave this to you. Big brother can't help you." "Big brother, don't worry. I will definitely refine the demon saber." Demon Venerable Sure patted his chest and promised. Moreover, Big brother's strength hasn't recovered, and the others haven't woken up yet. In the future, you will have to protect Big brother, Xiaohua said seriously to Demon Venerable Sure. Demon Venerable Sure's body trembled, and he looked at Xiaohua and said, "Big brother, you trust me so much?" "Yes, why wouldn't I trust you? You are my little brother," Xiaohua said with a smile. "If Big brother doesn't trust you, who else can I trust?" I thought. Demon Venerable Sure had mixed feelings, and his slightly inferior but arrogant heart couldn't help but tremble. Xiaohua knew what Demon Venerable sure wanted to say. He said meaningfully, Buddha Bodhi is the primordial spirit that I personally split, and he is also one of my clones. Back then, I had many doubts in the higher bound, and I made him feel wronged. Although you are not my primordial spirit, you are still my avatar. Don't you feel it? You used the blood shadow art to refine your body, and now you are using the laws of heaven and earth to condense your spirit. You already have an unbreakable connection with me. You, and the heavenly being Lightning Sage, and the others are all the masters of my fortune gate. Yes, I understand. Demon Venerable sure nodded proudly. I won't think too much in the future. As the demon world's Demon Venerable, where can I not dominate? I just like being with big brothers. Sweat. Xiaohua said while holding his forehead with one hand. Us brothers are of the same mind. In the future, no matter where we go, we will definitely be the overlords of a region. Could it be that you want to run away just because a celestial said a few words to you? He little brother knows. Big brothers were just joking with little brother. Demon Venerable sure immediately smiled mischievously, looking even more shameless than Zhang Qingxiao. Isn't little brother just teasing big brother? Alright, let's not talk about this anymore. Xiaohua waved his hand. Big brother, let me ask you, where is this place in the Yilin continent? How do we get to the Wuming mountain range? Okay, I'll let big brother know. Demon Honorable sure immediately giggled and replied seriously. This is the bottom of the Yilin continent's extremely famous heaven sacrificial abyss. Oh, extremely famous? Xiaohua pinched his chin and asked curiously. After all, he had never seen any records of the heaven sacrificial abyss in the Chanhe sect. Demon Venerable sure laughed and said, Chanhe sect is just a sect the size of a fingernail. How could they know about heaven sacrificial abyss? This heaven sacrificial abyss is the boundary between the Tao Alliance and the Heaven Alliance. Stop. Xiaohua hurriedly asked again. You said this is the boundary between the Heaven Alliance and the Tao Alliance? How did we get teleported so far away? This Heaven Alliance is an immortal alliance that can go against the Tao Alliance. What kind of power does it have? Xiaohua's words had some things that he was clear of, some things that he was not clear of. He said everything in one go, clearly trying to get rid of some of the taboos in Demon Venerable Shure's heart. My demon race has countless secret techniques. A baleful blood bead that can hold a spirit body, going from whatever Panlong mountain to the heaven sacrificial abyss is nothing. Demon Venerable Shure replied proudly, and according to the information that little brother received, this Heaven Alliance is an alliance formed by Tao cultivators, who cultivate primordial spirits. There are 72 immortal alliances under them, which are enemies with the Tao Alliance. Oh, the Tao Alliance is an alliance formed by Tao cultivators, who cultivate the primordial spirits. There are 81 immortal alliances under them. Feng Yin Country's Fallen Immortal Sect is a member of Tsiupu Immortal Alliance, while Tsiupu Immortal Alliance belongs to the Tao Alliance. As for the Chanhe sect, although they are within the Tsiupu Immortal Alliance's sphere of influence, they do not belong to the Tsiupu Immortal Alliance. Following which, Demon Venerable Sure told Xiaohua the fragmented information that he obtained from the memories of 10 over demons. Of course, Xiaohua could directly obtain this information from Demon Venerable Sure through his mind. However, he was still willing to tell Demon Venerable Sure every single word, because Xiaohua felt that the current Demon Venerable Sure was the same as the other clones. He could already be seen as an independent individual. He had to give them sufficient respect. After Xiaohua heard this, he nodded his head and said, So the Tao sects in the Yilin continent are actually so prosperous. Previously, I thought that the entire Yilin continent was ruled by the Tao Alliance. At this point, Xiaohua suddenly thought of something and hurriedly asked, If that's the case, then is that Tsiupu Immortal Alliance the Tao Alliance or the Heaven Alliance? This, Demon Venerable Sure hesitated for a moment, then shrugged his shoulders and said, Little brother does not know. These little demons don't seem to know much. Chapter 49-26. At this point Xiaohua looked left and right. Outside the spatial fragment, the scenery had already changed. An inexplicable spatial storm mixed with a strange spatial ripple was wreaking havoc in the surroundings. Light and shadow changed and created many illusions. Xiaohua smiled again and said, "Since this heaven sacrificial abyss is a natural barrier that separates the Tao Union and the Heaven Union, it will be troublesome to get out of here. Do you have any ideas?" "Leave it to little brother." Demon Venerable Shijiang thumped his chest loudly and shouted, "Little brother has just found out that there is a black demon path that leads to the outside of the abyss from this space fragment. It was built by these demon bastards with great effort. Hehe, these demon race have spent a lot of effort. You have let them down by devouring them." Xiaohua looked at Demon Lord Shi and raised his hand to point out a few demon patterns. Those demon patterns landed in a corner of the space and immediately started to spin. He smiled and said, "They want to revive this Demon Lord Ju. Aren't you more powerful than this Demon Lord?" The Demon Lord Shi opened his mouth and said, "Big brother, it is their fortune to be devoured by this Demon Lord. Why do you think they want to revive this Demon Lord Ju? It is to be devoured by this Demon Lord Ju. Forget it, forget it." Xiaohua smiled bitterly and waved his hand. "This is your demon race's matter. Big brother doesn't understand. You can do whatever you want." The demonic pattern spun rapidly, and after a moment, it condensed into several funnel-like vortexes, which were extremely similar to the ones Xiaohua had seen in the Panlong Mountain. In the end, the vortexes collided with each other, and the power of the demonic pattern hit the void. Puff! The sound of a bubble bursting was heard, and a blood-red passageway that was only a few feet wide appeared in the void. Demon Lord Shi pointed at the blood-red tunnel and smiled. "Big brother, this is my demon race's black demon path. Only the demon race's demon body can pass through. Big brother should have no problem, right? If you can pass through, Big brother can too." Xiaohua nodded and looked at Demon Lord Shi's body spinning like a whirlwind. The entire demon body condensed into demon qi and rushed into the black demon path. After the demon sovereign was killed, Xiaohua also activated his devil technique. As the devil qi around his body twisted, a suction force was born from the black demon path. Xiaohua's figure swayed, and he also entered the black demon path. Above the void fragment, a curvy strand of demon qi strangely passed through the gaps between the void fragment. It swayed left and right in the spatial storm like a string of a kite, and one end of the string plunged deep into a certain part of the abyss. Looking above the abyss, beyond the layers of fragments, under the cover of the sun and moon, there were several more passages 10,000 feet wide across the abyss. Outside the passages, layers of talismans were stacked together, and layers of spiritual energy fluctuations intertwined. Rays of light formed a barrier that firmly protected the passages. On one side of the passage, more than a dozen cultivators at the spirit-severing stage were holding magic treasures and patrolling in an orderly manner. On the other side of the passage, there were more than a dozen cultivators with similar strength standing there, constantly monitoring the movements of the passage. Xiaohua's figure fell into the black demon path, and a force that was close to the teleportation pressure fell. Then, he saw spots of fine lines appear in the nearby space. These fine lines revealed black and white light, and at the same time, there were threads of blood permeating this light. In just a few minutes, Xiaohua felt his body become light, and the moonlight in front of him was like a painting. The demon sovereign had been waiting in the air for a long time. At this time, his body had shrunk, and he was like a cloud of faint black fog floating there. Even if ordinary cultivators scanned him with their divine sense, they wouldn't be able to detect him. Seeing Xiaohua come out, the demon sovereign raised his hand and pointed in a direction. He hurriedly said, "Big brother, there is another black demon path 100,000 miles ahead of us. I don't know where it will be teleported to. Do you think we should use that black demon path, or the teleportation formation of the Heaven Alliance?" Xiaohua thought for a moment and said, "Let's use the black demon path. After all, this place is very close to the Tao Alliance, and you and I are not familiar with the Heaven Alliance. If we encounter any interrogation, it will be quite troublesome." Che, the demon sovereign snorted coldly and said, "Big brother is already a sovereign cultivator of the human race. Do you still need to worry about any trouble?" Xiaohua smiled and said, "Big brother is like this. He likes to avoid trouble. Moreover, you must know that this is the Yilin continent, where our Tao sect is at its peak. Who knows how many experts and sovereign cultivators there are in the Tao Alliance and Heaven Alliance. I remember that day in the 10,000 demon realm, when the Tao Heaven realm was mentioned, even the Rapid Cherry Grand Sage had a headache. You and I are not afraid of these cultivators, but there is no need to find trouble for ourselves, right? Alright, whatever Big Brother says. The demon sovereign nodded. If it was in the demon realm, I would definitely not be so humble. How is this called humble? Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This is called enduring humiliation. What enduring humiliation? It is clearly enduring humiliation. As the demon sovereign spoke, the demon chi around his body surged, and he turned into a black light and disappeared into the void. Damn it, when did you learn to be coquettish with the lightning reverend? Hearing the demon sovereign's face say a few idioms, which even led Xiaohua's words to deviate, Xiaohua couldn't help but laugh and scold. However, as he spoke, Xiaohua also used the wind escape technique and chased after the demon sovereign. When he reached a place where there was no one, he used the lightning escape technique and left. In just half a day, the two arrived at a barren place. The demon sovereign easily found the entrance of the black demon path from the swamp. After driving away some strange beasts, Xiaohua and the demon sovereign once again entered the path. This time, the time of the teleportation was similar to the time of the Blood Fiend Spiritual Pearl's teleportation. When they came out of the black demon path, they were at the peak of a towering mountain. Contrary to Xiaohua's expectations, the exit of the black demon path was actually in a teleportation array that seemed to have been damaged long ago. As Xiaohua and the demon sovereign flew out, the clear demon marks rolled up the demon chi and quickly converged into the talisman of the teleportation array. In just a few breaths, even if one used their divine sense to investigate, it would be difficult to find anything strange inside. And what was special was that Xiaohua used his divine sense to investigate this teleportation array, and found that if this teleportation array was repaired, it could still be used. In other words, a long time ago, the Tao Sect's teleportation array was used together with the demon race's black demon path. Sigh, Xiaohua withdrew his divine sense inside. The more I cultivate, the more I feel that I am shallow. I always find that there are too many secrets in this world that I don't know. Even if I have a primordial spirit and cultivate 10 times more techniques than others, I always feel that what I have learned is just a drop in the ocean. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, and thank you for all forms of support. In addition, I didn't have a full subscription group before. Under the suggestion of a fellow Taoist, I created a WeChat full subscription group. Before entering, please contact the Cultivation Gods Customer Services WeChat, XYCQ1186258881CU, and let him add all fellow Taoists who have a full subscription group. Chapter 4927. Big Brother, aren't you trying to embarrass me? Demon Venerable sure was displeased. No matter what, I am still a devil spirit from the higher realm. But I didn't know that the devil race had such a secret technique like the black demon path. My devil race from the higher realm either have spatial abilities, or simply use their bodies to break through space. Who would think of using the black demon path? I think the black demon path must have been borrowed from the Tao Sect's teleportation formation. Hehe, I seem to have thought of a saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Xiaohua laughed. If the devil race wants to hide among the Tao Sect cultivators and not learn from the human race, that won't do. Indeed, Demon Venerable sure did not laugh, but said seriously, from the incomplete memories of these devils, I know that they have lived in the Yilin continent for a long time. Many of their habits and techniques seem to have changed. Oh, that's right. Xiaohua suddenly thought of something and asked, how did these devils get to the Yilin continent? Could it be that the Yilin continent has a space crack similar to the one in the demon-resisting valley of the Xiaoyu continent? What is their purpose in coming to the Yilin continent? The Yilin continent doesn't have any demon-resisting valley. However, it seems like the devil realm and the Yilin continent would overlap every 10,000 years. In this overlapping area, the human race can enter the devil realm, and the devil race can also come to the Yilin continent. Demon Venerable Shur thought for a while and replied, "These devils were left behind from the last time the world overlapped. As for their purpose, it seems like it really has something to do with Demon Venerable Jew. But as for what it is exactly, I don't know. However, I do know that the Yilin continent is different from the devil realm. The devil race shouldn't have taken root here. When they come to the human realm, it's like the human race is hunting. Alright, no matter what it is, it has nothing to do with me." Xiaohua laughed. Taking advantage of this time, he had already released his divine sense and scanned the surrounding 10,000 li. He said, "I have already discovered a big city of the human race. You can return to the space. I will go and scout for information. If there is a teleportation formation, I will directly take it to the Wuming mountain range. I will listen to Big Brother's orders." Demon Venerable Shur nodded. "I can also go back and take a look at how to repair this devil blade. Maybe when I reach the Xiaoyu continent, I can help Big Brother." "Alright," Xiaohua nodded. Just as the demon's supremacy transformed into devil qi and was about to return to the space, it suddenly stopped. A large head poked out of the devil qi and said, "That's right, Big Brother. I remember you once said that Demon General Jipang's clone saw your true appearance. Our demon clan has some divine abilities that allow the clone to transmit what it sees to the main body. If you want to obtain information about the Wuming mountain range from Demon General Jipeng or the Liu Immortal Alliance, it's best that you transform into that ugly appearance." Damn it! Looking at the Demon Lord Shur's big head blinking at me and shrinking back into the devil qi, Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and scolded, "What do you know, this is my true form." Ha ha ha. Although Demon Lord Shur had hidden himself in the space, his maniacal laughter was still heard in the Yilin continent. Hearing Demon Lord Shur's joyful laughter, Xiaohua's heart also relaxed. Believing in a person, believing in a clone, believing in a demon clan's clone, felt good. Hearing Demon Lord Shur's suggestion, Xiaohua transformed into Zhang Xiaohua's appearance and was about to fly to the big city in the distance. However, after flying for a few thousand feet, he remembered something and landed on a mountain. With a shake of his hand, he took out the Kunlun mirror and activated the light beam, bringing Yu Hua and Lu Qingyu out of the space. Yu Hua and Lu Qingyu steadied themselves and saw Xiaohua looking at them with a smile that wasn't a smile. They hurriedly bowed and said, "Junior greets Senior Zhang. Many thanks to Senior Zhang for saving our lives." After saying that, Lu Qingyu looked to the left and said worriedly, "Senior Zhang, where is Junior's disciple?" "Don't worry," Xiaohua said with a smile. "All of you are fine. How could this old man let your obedient disciple hurt at all?" That's good," Lu Qingyu said with a smile, but stopped on second thought. Of course, Xiaohua knew what Lu Qingyu wanted to say. He said with a smile, "The opportunity you are waiting for is different from his. When this old man and he part ways, I will naturally call him out." "Part ways?" Hearing that, Yu Hua was a little anxious. She looked around and said anxiously, "Senior, where are we? Don't you need me to wait for you?" "Ha!" Xiaohua looked at the two and said with a smile, "As the saying goes, all good things must come to an end. Now it's time to part ways. You and the others have formed ties of fate with this old man. So this old man will give you two choices. First, follow this old man, and you don't have to go back to the Chanhe sect. In the future, the Chanhe sect will have nothing to do with you. Second, part ways with this old man here. This is a place of the Heavenly Alliance. This old man will send you to the nearest big city of the Immortal Alliance and give you enough crystals to let you go back to the Chanhe sect. Of course, if you choose to go back to the Chanhe sect, this old man will ask Nua, Yeching to come out and say goodbye to you." Hearing this, even a person with a screw loose understood Xiaohua's meaning. Yu Hua and Lu Qingyu almost didn't dare to believe their ears. They hurriedly turned over and kowtowed. "Junior greets Master." Don't be anxious. Xiaohua smiled and said, "This old man has already said the word master before. It's not something you can call. All of you watch carefully." While speaking, Xiaohua withdrew the illusion technique and revealed Taoist Zhao's appearance. Moreover, he slightly revealed the strength of the middle ninth level of origin energy. Seeing Xiaohua revert to his original appearance, which was 100 times more handsome than before, and there was an indescribable grace between his brows. Needless to say, the aura of the ninth level of origin energy was as vast as the sea to Yuhua and Lu Qingyu. The two of them couldn't help but cry out as they understood the meaning of Xiaohua's words. Xiaohua hurriedly withdrew his aura and helped the two of them up. He smiled and said, "This old man is the Fortune Gate's sect master Xiaohua Taoist Xiao. This old man is not a cultivator of the Tao Union, nor a cultivator of the Heaven Union. This old man is a Tao sect cultivator from another world. As for why this old man came to the Yilin mainland, you don't need to ask. Someone will tell you in the future. Since you are willing to go with this old man will let this old man's disciple accept you." Saying this, Xiaohua waved the Kunlun mirror and called out Li Xiang and Xiongyi. The two nascent soul cultivators landed on the foot of the mountain. They didn't forget to look around and immediately bowed. "Greetings, Master. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward, and..." Chapter 49-28. And wait a moment. Xiaohua nodded and pointed at Yuhua and Lu Qingyu. "These are the two fated cultivators I met when I came from the 10,000 demon realm. Wait and see who accepted them as disciples." "Master, wait a moment." Xiongyi listened and said, "Let me see their aptitude." "Okay." After Xiaohua agreed, Xiongyi walked in front of the two and ordered, "You two sit down cross-legged and cultivate." Seeing that Xiaohua's disciples were nascent soul cultivators, and their auras were several times stronger than Lu Hanhuan, Yuhua and Lu Qingyu didn't dare to neglect and quickly sat down cross-legged. Seeing Xiongyi examining the two, Li Xiang released his divine sense and looked around. He smiled and said, "Master, this Yilin continent looks similar to the hidden immortal continent. I guess it's not far from the Dawn Rain continent. Now I only need to pass through the Wuming mountain range to reach the Dawn Rain continent." Xiaohua looked into the distance with a worried expression. "However, this Wuming mountain range is not easy to pass. There are many supreme cultivators in the Yilin continent, but when I was in the Dawn Rain continent, I never heard of one. Moreover, the Immortal Tao Alliance in the Dawn Rain continent is only one of the 72 Immortal Tao Alliances in the Yilin continent. This Yilin continent is the place with hidden dragons and crouching tigers." "Oh, so..." Li Xiang's eyes lit up and he smiled. "This Yilin continent is the place where my Fortune Gate's disciples should come? Actually, to tell you the truth, I already regret it." Xiaohua didn't hide and said, "I should have left you in the 10,000 demon realm." Then, Xiaohua told them about the changes in the Yilin continent's spiritual energy and the passing of lifespan. Finally, he said, "If you stay in the Yilin continent, the path of cultivation is really difficult. Moreover, the Tao Alliance here seems to be in a desperate situation." Unexpectedly, Li Xiang didn't have any special expression. He only smiled and said, "If that's the case, then we should go to the Dawn Rain continent. That's where Master was born. The Fortune Gate there is also Master's face." "Master." At this moment, Xiongyi had already finished his inspection. He returned and transmitted his voice. "These two people's aptitude is average. They might not be able to cultivate to the spirit severing stage. I do not wish to accept them." "Haha, let me have a look." Although Li Xiang couldn't hear Xiongyi's voice, he already knew what Xiongyi meant by looking at Xiongyi's expression. Therefore, Li Xiang said as he walked behind Yuhua and Lu Qingyu. After checking them casually, Li Xiang said with a smile, "Master, these two people's aptitudes are average, and their cultivation methods are relatively poor. However, I've been stupid since I was a child. I know how hard it is for them to cultivate. I'm willing to accept them as my disciples." Yuhua and Lu Qingyu had always been nervous. Now that they heard Li Xiang say that he wanted to take in a disciple, their hearts were finally at ease. They hurriedly knelt down and kowtowed. "Disciple greets Master." Seeing this, Xiaohua was also happy. He clapped and said, Very good. Greetings, Grandmaster. Yuehua and Lu Qingyu obediently kowtowed again. Li Xiang quickly waved his hand and said, Disciple, call sect leader Deleoi first. It's not appropriate for you all to address him as martial ancestor now. If the other Fortune Gate inner sect disciples hear it, they will be unhappy. Although Li Xiang's words were to stop them, there was a hint of pride in his tone. Although their cultivation was low, they were still Xiaohua's personal disciples. Although Yuehua and Lu Qingyu didn't understand, they already knew that this Fortune Gate was definitely a sect several times bigger than the fallen immortal sect. Therefore they hurriedly changed their greetings and said, Disciple greets sect leader Deleoi. He get up, get up. Xiaohua laughed and took out 2 jade bottles from his bosom. He handed them over and said, You two have fate with this old man. Now that I've accepted you into my Fortune Gate, it can be considered as fulfilling one of this old man's wishes. These are the pills this old man refined, take them. Thank you, sect leader Deleoi. Yuehua and Lu Qingyu were overjoyed and hurriedly received the pills. Haha! A loud laughter sounded as Lord Devil flew out and shouted, Sect leader, the other old masters haven't woken up yet. Now that this lord has come to show his face, why aren't you greeting sect leader Deleoi? Ah! Yuehua and Lu Qingyu were already pale with fright when they saw the majestic aura of the devil race appear. Their knees went soft, and they almost collapsed to the ground. Xiaohua was displeased and said, Look, you've scared the children. Ai, how boring, how boring. Lord Devil's desire to show off had long disappeared when he saw the 2 little cultivators' limp appearance. He waved his hand, and his figure flashed into the space. This guy is a little too complacent. Seeing Lord Devil freely enter and exit the space in front of the Fortune Gate's disciples without letting him use the Kunlun mirror, Xiaohua was a little displeased. This could easily expose the secret of his space. Sect leader Deleoi, this is... Yuehua saw the terrifying aura disappear in a flash, so she mustered up her courage to ask. Xiaohua said amiably, Yuehua, don't be afraid. He is my Fortune Gate's sect leader Deleoi. Because this old man's cultivation hasn't fully recovered. Before I let you two out, this old man let him out to stand guard. Although he is the devil race's devil venerable, he is also my Fortune Gate's disciple. He won't harm you too. Yuehua and Lu Qingyu were afraid, but when they heard the 2 words devil venerable, it was like a bolt of lightning that knocked them unconscious. How could they still be afraid? A devil race's devil venerable was actually the Fortune Gate's sect leader Deleoi. Then what was the cultivation of this sect leader Deleoi and the other sect leaders behind him? What kind of strength did this Fortune Gate have? They were dumbfounded. You all returned to Shenhua continent first. Xiaohua waved the Kunlun mirror in his hand, and a light pillar appeared, enveloping Xiongyi and the others. When we return to Danrang continent, this old man will call you out. Yes, master. Xiongyi and Li Xiang bowed. The Kunlun mirror's light pillar swept over them, and just as it was about to send them into the space, Lu Qingyu hurriedly shouted, Sect leader Deleoi, disciple's disciple. Although Lu Qingyu didn't finish his words, Xiaohua understood the meaning of his words very clearly. He definitely wanted him to bring Nuo Yeching into the Fortune Gate. However, Xiaohua was even more clear that Nuo Yeching must have her own secrets. Why should he interfere with other people's karma for no reason? He thought for a moment and said, Yi Qing's matter, he must have already told you. This old man also doesn't want to mention it. This old man has a very good impression of him. So I agreed to his request and brought him out from Nebula Ridge. As for his purpose, he didn't tell this old man. So this old man naturally won't ask. This is the so-called fate of my Tao Gate. Do you all understand? P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, and thank all forms of support. Chapter 49-29. Sect Master. Lu Qingyu still wanted to fight for a chance for Nuo Yeching. Xiaohua liked this kind of fighting spirit the most. Lu Qingyu smiled and said, Nuo Yeching has been quiet since he was young, but his talent is not something this disciple boasted about. It is rare in the Chanha sect. However, he is good at hiding his strength, so others can't see it. Moreover, he has a lot of thoughts, always thinking about irrelevant things. He definitely doesn't know our fortune gate's strength, so he is thinking about other opportunities. If sect master likes him, why don't you let him show a little bit of his strength? Are you familiar with Magnolia Hall's Xiaofeng? Xiaohua asked without any reason. Lu Qingyu was stunned, then blurted out, "Of course." After this disciple's master passed away, Hall Master Xia took good care of this disciple. Do you still remember what this old man said to him that day? Xiaohua asked indifferently. Lu Qingyu was at a loss, but Yuehua quickly reminded him. Sect master seemed to have said that Hall Master Xia won't live for more than 10 years. And he said that his fate is not good. That's right. Xiaohua nodded. If Xiafeng was in front of this old man now, this old man could guarantee that he won't die for 100 years. He could even cultivate until the late nascent soul stage. However, at that time, this old man was powerless. This is fate and also fate. Xiaohua did not explain further, and the Kunlun mirror sucked the 4 people into it. Lu Qingyu's expression was a little gloomy. He had heard clearly that Xiaohua respected fate and respected other people's choices. Since Nuo Yeqing had her own secrets and ambitions, Xiaohua would not interfere. Although he felt that Nuo Yeqing was extraordinary and liked her very much, the Fortune Gate's disciples were as numerous as the morning stars. One more Nuo Yeqing was not a big deal, and one less Nuo Yeqing was not a big deal. After understanding the karma between Yuehua and Lu Qingyu, Xiaohua urged the Kunlun mirror to fly towards a big city in the distance. When he got closer and saw clearly, Xiaohua was speechless. This was a mountain peak that was more than 1,000 zhang tall, covering an area of more than 100 mu. Ordinary mountain peaks were accompanied by mountain ranges, and even the worst ones had hills and forests. However, this mountain was different. There were no hills or mountains within a few miles of it. There was only a city wall that was more than 1,000 feet tall surrounding it. On the other hand, it was about 10 miles away from the city wall. There were rolling hills, green grass, and spring water. With a single glance, one could tell that all of this was created by great magic power, and not by human power. Between the foothills, there were many mountain springs flowing. Bamboo forests whistled with the wind, and from time to time, some white cranes and sparrows would be startled from the bamboo forests. With a long cry, they would rush into the air, circling in the mountain wind for a moment before slowly descending. Perhaps inadvertently, there was a sudden beast roar. It looked like a huge mountain beast had bumped into the bamboo forest, and a group of small beasts in the bamboo forest in the distance fled in panic. Some of the small beasts ran into the bamboos in a hurry. The bamboos only swayed slightly, and some bamboo leaves fell down. The small beasts were even knocked over. However, the small beasts did not dare to stop. They turned around and shook their confused little heads. Following the sound in front of them, they spread out their thick little legs that were less than 10 inches long and continued to sway as they fled. After passing through the bamboo forest, they crashed into a small hole at the base of the hill. Only then did they calm down. Different from the nearby forest and mountain beasts, the city wall around the mountain peak exuded an indescribable solemnity and dignity. The city wall was made of bluestone, and it was covered with fine runes. The runes shone faintly under the light of the eyes, and the densely packed light was like tadpoles merging together outside the city wall. It was not only the brilliance. Within a few miles of the city wall, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth flowed in an orderly manner. It either turned into a fist-sized whirlpool and fell into the runes, or twisted into strips, like small snakes circling around the city wall. High up on the city wall, a light green light curtain covered the sky and fell on the surface of the mountain peak. This light curtain was like a waterfall, but it flowed against the flow and rushed to the top of the mountain peak. The sunlight shone on the light screen. It was shaded by trees, and there were layers upon layers of mountains. It looked like an ordinary mountain, but when one looked at the city walls at the foot of the mountain, one would know that it was an illusion. Behind the mountain peak, the faint cyan light screen condensed into a faint ring of light. This ring of light was several acres in size and slowly rotated in the air. Xiaohua was able to clearly see that around the ring of light, there were no less than 81 invisible ripples that were several zhang in size. They were like huge dragons that rushed down and landed in the nearby 81 bamboo forests. They firmly locked onto the mountain peak and the city. An aura as firm as a boulder faintly seeped out from the great array formed by the city, the mountain peak, and the bamboo forest, causing people to be truly shocked. Xiao Hua stood in midair and looked at the cultivators descending from the sky. Then, he looked at the cultivators walking out of the 12 city gates of the big city. He pinched his chin and thought to himself, although I don't know what this big city is called, judging from its location, I'm afraid it's not some important big city. Moreover, there aren't many cultivators going in and out of the city gate, and there aren't many guards outside the city gate. It's probably not a famous city in the Heaven Alliance. But just this ordinary city, whether it's the formation or the aura of the city, it's much stronger than the Heaven Patrol City in the Dawn Rain continent. Yilan continent Heaven Dao realm, it really lives up to its name. After observing for a moment, Xiao Hua flew closer. He didn't know what the rules of this city were. So he looked around and saw the people around him landing at the city gate. He followed suit and was about to land. At this moment, from the sky above the bamboo forest on the right, there was a roar of a beast. He saw a white tiger-like spirit beast carrying a fat monk flying over. Seeing that there was actually a monk on the Yilan continent, Xiao Hua was stunned. He didn't fly down in a hurry, but waited for a moment. When the monk rode the spirit beast closer, he took a closer look and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How was this a monk? This was clearly a Dao cultivator, who cultivated the primordial spirit. However, Xiao Hua's eyes turned, and he still cupped his hands and said, "Fellow Taoist, please." When the monk saw the unfamiliar cultivator greet him, his eyes immediately became vigilant. However, when he looked around and saw that they were close to the city wall, he was slightly relieved. He put on a smile on his face and returned the greeting. "Greetings, fellow Taoist. May I know what you're here for?" When the monk said fellow Taoist, Xiao Hua felt uncomfortable in his heart. He smiled and said, "I came from the Defeat Oak Immortal Alliance near the Wuming Mountain. I wanted to visit a friend at the Golden Autumn Mountain, but I got lost when I flew here. So I wanted to ask if you know Perfected Liao of the Golden Autumn Mountain? P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it. Give it as a reward, and..." Chapter 4930. Jin Qiushan. That monk believed it. On his fat face, a pair of small eyes squeezed into a slit by his fat turned for a moment. Then he said blankly, "Sorry, this poor monk has never heard of Jin Qiushan. Nor do I know any Taoist Liao. I've disappointed you." Saying that, the monk wanted to urge the spirit beast again. But seeing that they were already close to the big city, he sighed and reluctantly flew down from the spirit beast's back. Just as he landed, the spirit beast made a woo sound. Its body expanded a little, and it even gave a cheerful low roar, seeming to be a lot more relaxed. Dong! The monk kicked the spirit beast's butt, kicking it several feet away, his mouth still cursing. "Lazy thing. You only carried this monk for half a day, and you're already so tired?" Elo. The spirit beast seemed to be in pain as it growled a few times. The monk stole a glance at Xiao Hua, and felt that he was losing face. His body moved, and just as he was about to kick the spirit beast again, a gust of wind suddenly appeared near the spirit beast. The spirit beast's body shone brightly, and the spirit beast that was several zhang long turned into a foot long. Then, under Xiao Hua's dumbfounded gaze, the spirit beast's body swayed, and like a cat, it pounced on the monk's left leg. Its 4 hooves firmly wrapped around the monk's leg, and its bloody mouth was now only a few inches wide. Its bright red tongue licked the monk's leg here and there. You! The monk swung his leg, but he didn't shake off the spirit beast. He roared a few times, as if he couldn't bear to lose his temper again. "Haha, Taoist friend." Xiao Hua laughed. "Your spirit beast is really cute. What's its name?" Hearing this, the monk's face showed a smile, and he lovingly raised his hand to touch the spirit beast's head, saying, "This poor monk gave it the name of tyrannical tiger. But no matter how you look at it, it doesn't look like a fierce tiger that dominates the world. Instead, it looks like an ordinary cat. That's because Taoist friend is benevolent. So the spirit beast you raise is also cute, Xiaohua said with a smile. It's nothing, it's nothing. The monk hurriedly replied. We are monks, so of course we have to be merciful. At this point, the monk waved his nondescript Taoist robe, and a bright light shone out to keep the spirit beast. Then he looked at the big city not far away and said with a smile, I happen to have some matters to attend to in Tong Lake City. If you don't mind, why don't we enter together? Oh, thank you so much. Xiaohua nodded and followed the monk. About 100 zhang away from the big city, a layer of faint fluctuation emerged from the ground and swept over Xiaohua's body. Xiaohua knew that it was Tong Lake City's defense, so he ignored it. When the fluctuation swept past without stopping, the monk at the side smiled and said, I'm Hongqing. Greetings, fellow cultivator. Just now, I wasn't sure of your identity, so I didn't dare to pay attention to you. Please forgive me. Hehe, it doesn't matter. I am Taoist Master Xiao. Xiaohua didn't mind. It would be strange if Tong Lake City's defenses could see through his identity. So it's Taoist Master Xiao. Hongqing nodded slightly and said, It seems that fellow cultivator is a nascent soul cultivator. Yes. Xiaohua already understood the situation of the Heaven Alliance from Demon Lord Shi. So he replied without hesitation. Most of the cultivators in my Tongyu Immortal Alliance are nascent soul cultivators. It's very different from other places in the Heaven Alliance. Sigh, I really envy you nascent soul cultivators. Hongqing sighed. However, after a moment, he suddenly realized something and looked at Xiaohua with surprise. Oh right. You came to Tongqiong Immortal Alliance to visit a friend. Damn it, how can your luck be so good? You actually came to Tong Lake City by accident. Xiaohua was really confused. He asked curiously, Fellow cultivator, why do you say that? How can I be so lucky when I came to Tong Lake City? The fat Hongqing's face showed a trace of friendliness. He laughed softly and said, Taoist Master Xiao, I want to ask you, what's your cultivation level now? Xiaohua had long seen through this monk's qi refinement realm of the lower 4th grade of essence energy on the surface. But in reality, he was already at the upper 4th grade of essence energy, the return to divinity realm. Thus he proudly said, This humble Taoist is already at the middle stage of nascent soul realm. Ioyo. Hearing this, the monk couldn't help but smile. However, he said with surprise, So fellow cultivator has a cultivation level concealment technique. No wonder I saw that you were only in the early stage of nascent soul realm. I don't dare. It's just a small trick. Xiaohua was very modest, but his tone revealed a kind of arrogance. Sigh, you nascent soul cultivators really know how to play. Hongqing couldn't help but sigh again. I am already a nascent soul realm cultivator, but I don't dare to show off casually. No way. Xiaohua pretended to be surprised and said, I see that you are only in the qi refinement realm. That's just superficial. Hongqing also showed off a little. It's nothing. You don't have to take it seriously. So fellow cultivator is also an expert. Xiaohua quietly flattered him. Of course. If I'm not an expert, how would I know some secret information? As he spoke, Hongqing saw that the city gate was already close at hand. He hurriedly pulled Xiaohua and said mysteriously, Fellow cultivator Xiao, let me ask you, how is the recruitment of disciples in the various nascent soul realm sects of Defeat Immortal Alliance? Is it similar to the Dao Alliance? That's right. Xiaohua was a little puzzled. He followed Hongqing's tone and replied, Although this old man is a loose cultivator, my disciples are also worried about recruiting disciples. The previous selection technique was useless. The disciples that were recruited looked good, but their cultivation speed was really slow. And some disciples that didn't look so good cultivated extremely fast. That's right. Hongqing looked around and said in a low voice, This poor monk has a piece of news that can help you solve this problem. Do you want to know? Ah, impossible. How could you have news? Xiaohua's heart moved. He pretended to be surprised and said, In my Defeat Immortal Alliance, countless seniors have not solved this problem for hundreds of years. At this point, Xiaohua paused for a moment. He looked like he suddenly realized something and said, I know. Fellow cultivator is talking about the Dao Alliance, right? They already have a way to solve the problem of recruiting disciples? Hongqing was a little surprised. However, he still continued. The Tao Alliance is too far away. Moreover, you can't cross the Heaven Sacrificial Abyss. Therefore, I's news is naturally within the Heaven Alliance. If fellow cultivator Xiao wants to know, I only need a mid-grade crystal. What do you think? P.S. Fellow cultivators who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support. Vote for a month. Vote for a recommendation, collect, reward. Thank you for all forms of support. In addition, today is Mr. Xianqing's birthday. I'll add an update for him and wish him a happy birthday. Chapter 4931. I can get the solution with just a mid-grade crystal? Xiaohua was overjoyed. He hurriedly reached into his pocket and shouted, "It's really worth it. Fellow cultivator, I'll follow you." Hongqing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Fellow cultivator Xiao, you're dreaming. This spiritual root selection method costs 10 top-grade crystals." At this point, Hongqing realized that he had spilled the beans and hurriedly stopped. "Ah, it turns out that you don't have a spiritual root selection method." Xiaohua put down his hand and said curiously, "Then why do you ask I for a middle-grade crystal?" Hee. Hongqing smiled again and said in a low voice, "The spiritual root selection method was created by the Taoist Alliance. They've blocked it from the Heavenly Alliance. No one can get it. However, I know where to get this secret method. Do you think this information is worth a middle-grade crystal?" This. Xiaohua hesitated. He looked at the city gate and thought for a while. He shook his head and said, "I think I'd better forget it. I just came out to visit a friend. I haven't thought about the spiritual root yet. I'll enter Tong Lake City and ask where Jin Qiushan is. When I find Jinren Liao, I'll discuss it with him." 10 low-grade crystals, Hongqing said without hesitation. "If Jinren Xiao still doesn't agree, then forget it." Hearing Hongqing's words, Xiaohua knew that the place Hongqing was talking about must be in Tong Lake City. However, he hesitated and said, "Fellow cultivator, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth has changed. Nowadays there are fewer crystals. I have 5 crystals. I can't give you less." Hongqing gnashed his teeth and said, "I'm only doing this because you're pleasing to the eye. Otherwise." At this moment, at the side of the city gate, there were already more than 10 cultivators hurrying in. They all looked anxious. They glanced at Xiaohua and Hongqing, but they did not pay any attention to them. "All right." Xiaohua also replied while gnashing his teeth. "As you wish, fellow Taoist. 5 low-grade crystals. Quick, give it to this penniless monk, and this penniless monk will tell you immediately." Hongqing looked a little impatient. Xiaohua had plundered a lot of crystal stones from the auction house of Xiahong Mountain. He casually took out 5 low-grade crystal stones from his storage ring and handed them to Hongqing with a pained expression. "Haha." Hongqing put the crystal into his storage ring and immediately said in high spirits, "Fellow Taoist, please follow I. The spirit root selection method is being auctioned at the Chonglim Pavilion. I will bring you there." "Fellow Taoist," Xiaohua cried out, "you can't play like this." Hee. Hongqing chuckled. With a flick of his Taoist robe, he took out the tyrannical tiger that looked like a cat from his sleeve. He raised his hand and fed the tyrannical tiger a low-grade crystal. The tyrannical tiger opened its mouth and began to chew. Its tail wagged vigorously behind its back. It looked very happy. "Tyrant tiger, this is the food that Taoist Master Xiao gave you. You have to thank him." Hongqing patted Bahu's head and said with a smile. "Ho ho." While eating, Bahu roared twice at Xiaohua. Although Hongqing didn't open his mouth, the meaning in his eyes was clear. "Do you still want it? Do you still want to earn food from my family's kitten? Shameless. Come on then." Looking at Hongqing's ruffian appearance, how could he be a monk? Xiaohua was also helpless. "Forget it, forget it." Xiaohua helplessly waved his hand and said, "These 5 low-grade crystal stones were given to this beast. This old man deserves it. Fellow Taoist, quickly bring this Xiao to the Chonglim Pavilion. This Xiao wants to see what the spirit root selection method is like." Xiaohua's words were pointing at the mulberry tree and cursing the locust tree. Hearing this, Hongqing felt a bit embarrassed. However, since he took out Bahu to take the blame. Now that he was cursed as Bahu, he deserved it. Anyway, this Hongqing's skin was thick enough. Perhaps it was because there was too much oil on his face, but in a moment he returned to normal. He smiled and raised his hand. Fellow Taoist, this poor monk is also going to the Changlim Pavilion to see if the spirit root selection method is suitable for us cultivators who cultivate the primordial spirit. Let's go together. After saying this, Hongqing waved his big sleeves and took the lead to pass through the city gate. Looking at the fat back, how could it have anything to do with an outstanding cultivator? After Xiaohua passed through the city gate, he was faced with a mountain peak that was so tall that it could pierce through the sky. The mountain peak was full of pavilions, which looked completely different from what he saw outside the city. Moreover, at the foot of the mountain within the city walls, there were some palaces of different heights and styles. These palaces looked magnificent, but Xiaohua could see clearly that some of the palaces even had some banners engraved with gourds and cauldrons hanging on them. Obviously, these were shops that sold spirit pills and magic tools. Looking at the mountain peak again, the layers of pavilions looked like the gardens of immortal cultivation sections. However, if one looked carefully, they could clearly see all kinds of signs of selling. Of course, what puzzled Xiaohua was that although there were many pavilions outside the mountain peak, he didn't see any cultivators flying here and there. Fellow Taoist, Xiaohua was a little bewildered and asked in a low voice, "This Tong Lake City doesn't seem to have many fellow Taoists coming here." Chapter 4932. Xiaohua didn't know about any tribulation transcending cultivators in the Heavenly Alliance. He could only reply, "Hee, I'm just a loose cultivator. How could I know about any tribulation transcending seniors in the Immortal Alliance?" "And that's good. I'll teach you a trick." Hongqing hurriedly lowered his voice and said, "When you come out of the Changlim Pavilion, you might as well go to the 8th floor to take a look. Sometimes some Taoist seniors will go to the 8th floor from the 9th floor. If you see them, immediately kneel down and kowtow with tears and snot running down your face. Tell them about your miserable life. Maybe some seniors will take pity on you and take you in." "Damn it, why don't you go?" Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Alas, look at me." Hongqing raised his arm and turned left and right. "No matter what, I don't look like someone who came from a poor background." As they spoke, they arrived at the side of the mountain peak. They were about 1,000 feet away from the peak. Swish! At the same level as Xiaohua's eyes, a rune that looked like an eye appeared. Then, the eye suddenly expanded and turned into a grid that was more than 100 feet in size. A sturdy Qi transformation cultivator stood at the side of the grid with a smile, quietly watching Xiaohua and Hongqing approach. "Fellow Taoist Xiao," Hongqing said without any trace of politeness, "didn't you just ask? Why are there no cultivators flying outside the mountain peak?" "I'll tell you now. It's because the Tong Lake City's auction peak uses a teleportation formation as the passage. Cultivators are not allowed to fly outside the mountain peak. Teleportation formations are used between the different floors?" Xiaohua was inexplicably surprised and shouted, "My Liu Immortal Alliance doesn't have that many teleportation formations." "So Senior is a cultivator of the Liu Immortal Alliance?" The Qi transformation cultivator heard Xiaohua's deliberately mystifying words and said with a smile, "Senior, are you going to the 6th floor?" Xiaohua didn't understand why the Qi transformation cultivator said that. Just as he was about to ask, Hongqing took a few steps forward and said with familiarity, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, follow me to the Chonglin Pavilion on the 5th floor." "Oh then Senior, please." The Qi transformation cultivator nodded and raised his hand to take out an all-like magic treasure. As he waved it, one of the several grids on the side suddenly flew out and rapidly turned into a simple teleportation formation. "And this poor monk will go first." As Hongqing spoke, he had already stepped into the teleportation channel. Only then did he turn his head and say to Xiaohua, "Hand the crystals over to the guards of Tong Lake City." "Ah." Xiaohua stared blankly for a moment. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He watched as the brilliant light of the teleportation channel rushed up and covered Hongqing's fat body. After a moment, Hongqing disappeared. Mother asterisk her, I don't know this shameless fatty. Xiaohua spat, then turned around to leave. Senior. That qi transformation cultivator didn't dare to leave his post to stop Xiaohua. Instead, he bitterly cried out, it's only 2 low-grade crystal stones. If senior feels it's inappropriate, then this junior will pay for the crystal stones of that senior just now. Of course, it was impossible for Xiaohua to leave. He looked at the shrewd cultivators and took out 2 low-grade crystals from his storage ring. He tossed them to the qi transformation cultivators and said, fine, you can have them. This old man was just joking with you. Hee. Junior knows that senior is teasing junior. Please. The qi transformation cultivator hurriedly received the crystal stones and opened up a teleportation channel, respectfully inviting Xiaohua to enter. Xiaohua stepped into the teleportation channel and suddenly remembered something. He hurriedly asked, right, why did you ask this old man to go to the 6th floor? Oh, Junior thought that senior and... Before the qi transformation cultivator finished speaking, the teleportation channel had already been activated. Xiaohua felt a light flash in front of his eyes. His body first sank. Then he saw monk Hongqing standing in front of him with a smile on his face. Of course, at this time, the kitten named Tyrannical Tiger was in his hand. Knowing that Hongqing had already prepared the words for him, Xiaohua was naturally too lazy to ask again. He looked left and right. On the passageway that was like a silver dragon, many cultivators walked out of the light circle. He asked, where is the Changlin Pavilion? Seeing that Xiaohua didn't ask, Hongqing smiled and put away Tyrannical Tiger. He raised his hand and pointed at the winding silver path. Where else could it be? Didn't you see? The cultivators of the 5th floor are all going there. Today seems to be the last day. I don't know if the spiritual root selection method can be used. If it can be used, I'm afraid this poor monk will buy it at all costs. As he spoke, Hongqing's small eyes turned and looked at Xiaohua again. Seeing this, Xiaohua hurriedly dodged and looked around. Forget it, whatever spiritual root has nothing to do with this Xiao. This Xiao will go look elsewhere. Fellow Taoist, look at you. Hongqing hurriedly smiled and said, what do you think this poor monk is? This poor monk just wants to get some rations for Tyrannical Tiger. Why do you take it seriously? This spiritual root selection method is still unclear of its use to this poor monk. This poor monk just wants to help fellow Taoist because fellow Taoist looks kind. It is said that the jade slip costs 10 top-grade crystal stones. I was thinking that if fellow Taoist doesn't have enough, this poor monk can gather a few top-grade crystal stones. When the time comes, you can just let this poor monk take a look. Forget it. Xiaohua waved his hand indifferently and said, this Xiao doesn't plan to buy it. I don't need fellow Taoist's help. Finished speaking, Xiaohua followed the 2 cultivators who had just come out of the transmission channel and walked towards the end of the silver path. Hongqing didn't give up, but instead walked behind Xiaohua and persuaded in a low voice. Fellow Taoist Xiao, it's only 10 top-grade crystal stones. You are a very famous cultivator in the Defeat Valley Immortal Union. How could you not have? Along the way, Hongqing was like an abandoned village woman, chattering endlessly in Xiaohua's ear. It seemed that if Xiaohua didn't bid for the method of selecting spiritual roots and let him see it, he would definitely not give up. In the end, Xiaohua simply closed his eyes and listened, moving forward with more and more cultivators. Not until he reached the end of the silver path. In the space on Xiaohua's left hand, a splashing painting of a pavilion swayed in the mountain wind. On the painting, the 3 words Changlin Pavilion flashed with golden light. Seeing the cultivator in front of him walk into the picture, Xiaohua also walked over. Seeing the splashing picture collide with his body, a layer of light rippled like the surface of a lake. Xiaohua was already in front of a tall pavilion. This pavilion had 3 floors and was green in color. From the outside, it looked as if the entire pavilion was made of bamboo. However, the color of the bamboo was pure, and it looked more sparkling and translucent than jade. It was obviously not bamboo outside of Tong Lake City. Xiaohua had just revealed himself when he saw that many cultivators had already gathered in front of him. Although the space array inside the Changlin Pavilion had already been activated, it still looked crowded. When Xiaohua turned on his listening device, a wave of noisy discussions fell into his ears. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, gift, and thank you for all forms of support. I wish all fellow Taoists a happy Zongzi festival. One more update. Chapter 4933. I heard that the cultivators of the Guangqing Immortal Alliance spent a lot of effort and sacrificed hundreds of their disciples to obtain the spiritual root selection method. I wonder if it's useful? It should be useful. After all, it's not the first time that Shen Ming's disciples came to Tong Lake City. They came here half a year ago, but not many people believed them. They sold some and went to the Nine Cloud Ridge. I heard that no one believed them at first, but suddenly, the Tao Alliance announced that the Tao Alliance had publicized the spiritual root selection method to the entire Tao Alliance. That's why their spiritual root technique became popular. Since the Tao Alliance has publicized it, why are they still selling it at such a high price? 10 supreme-grade crystals can be used to buy a magic weapon. The problem is that the Tao Alliance only publicized it to the 81 Immortal Alliances. They didn't publicize it to the Heaven Alliance. Moreover, just a few years ago, before the news came, the security of the sacrificial abyss suddenly became tight. It was impossible for a cultivation method to be passed down from there. Shen Mingjiao got it early and paid a huge price. How could they not let him earn more crystal stones? It's a pity. I heard that the Tao Alliance has some cultivation methods for spiritual roots that have reached the Golden Core realm. However, Shen Ming only has the spiritual root selection method. It's really a fly in the ointment. Don't be greedy. It's good enough that they have the spiritual root selection method to find suitable disciples and pass down our orthodoxy. It's a pity that we don't know if this spiritual root selection method is suitable for us primordial spirit cultivators. I really don't know. I heard that Shen Ming sent this cultivation method to the leader of the Heaven Alliance, but there hasn't been a reply. However, it's a cultivation method of the Tao Alliance. Maybe it's useless to the Heaven Alliance? Unfortunately, before Xiaohua could listen to more, Hong Qing came closer and persuaded. Taoist Xiao, it's just 10 supreme-grade crystals. Xiaohua was annoyed. He waved his hand and said, If I bid, I'll let you have a look. Don't talk nonsense. Haha, I knew it. Taoist Xiao is a generous person. Come, I've been to the Chonglim Pavilion before. Let's go this way. There will be many people bidding later. I'm afraid it's not convenient to stand outside. Hong Qing was delighted and hurriedly pointed inside. All right. Xiaohua nodded. I'll go in and take a look. Dang. Just as Xiaohua took a dozen or so steps, a sound similar to a large yellow bell rang out from within the Chonglin Pavilion. The pillars of the entire Chonglin Pavilion suddenly fluttered like pythons and rapidly fell into the void. In just a moment, light and shadow overlapped. Xiaohua, Hong Qing, and the cultivators who were discussing outside the Chonglin Pavilion just now were all inside a pavilion that was several mu in size. This pavilion was suffused with a green luster. Rings of bamboo were strung together and rotated around the inner walls of the pavilion. Wisps of bamboo fragrance wafted out from within. Fellow Taoists, dozens of bamboo grew out from the bottom of the pavilion and formed a bamboo platform in midair. One of the bamboo exploded, and a few nascent soul cultivators flew out. The one in front was dressed in white. He looked around and cupped his hands. I'm Huan Swan from Tong Lake City. I'm here on the orders of the city lord to assist Shen Ming School in auctioning the spiritual root selection method. I'd like to thank all fellow Taoists for your support. You're welcome. It was like an ordinary auction. It was unknown whether it was arranged in advance, or there were cultivators who knew Huan Swan. Under the bamboo platform, a few cultivators had already raised their hands. As long as fellow Taoists can sell the jade slip to I at a cheaper price. Haha, Huan Swan laughed. If it were my Tong Lake City's jade slip, I'd give it all to you for free. Unfortunately, this jade slip is from Shen Ming School. Everything will have to listen to fellow Taoists from Shen Ming School. Haha, even if it's from Tong Lake City, you can't give it away for free. A cultivator laughed. Otherwise, the city lord will expel you from Tong Lake City. Damn it, for the sake of fellow Taoist satisfaction. So what if I'm expelled from Tong Lake City? Huan Xuan replied righteously. Then, Huan Xuanzi said a few more words, and raised his hand to pick up a jade slip. He said, I won't introduce the things in the jade slip. After all, everyone is here for the spiritual root selection method. Today, I'd like to introduce today's auction. When everyone heard this, they immediately had a bad feeling. One of the cultivators asked anxiously, Huan Xuan, is there a change to today's auction? Haha, there aren't many changes. It's just that the starting price has changed to 10 supreme grade crystals. Each increment is 1 supreme grade crystal. There's no upper limit. Huan Xuan replied with a smile. No way, this is too shady. A few cultivators were already shouting. Wasn't the starting price of 5 supreme grade crystals, and each increment is 10 top grade crystals? Huan Xuan looked at the silent cultivators beside him and shrugged. This is fellow Taoist Shen Ming Sect's idea. I've also reported it to the city lord. After all, it's the last day. Haha, everyone understands. Please forgive me. Who knows if the spiritual root selection method in the jade slip is real? Seeing the change in the auction rules, everyone was unhappy. Some of the cultivators were already nitpicking. That's right. None of the fellow Taoists have made a public announcement. Who knows if the spiritual root selection method is effective? What's a spiritual root? Fellow Taoists of Shenming sect, can you explain it? The Tao Alliance has locked down our Heaven Alliance so tightly. I don't believe that Shenming sect can get the spiritual root selection method from the Tao Alliance. For a moment, there were different opinions, and the situation was a little out of control. Huan Xuan seemed to be very experienced. At first, he didn't say anything. After a round of discussion, he raised his hand and said, Fellow Taoists, don't be anxious. These questions should be answered by the fellow Taoists of Shenming sect. However, I can guarantee that the city lord has already seen this cultivation method. There's definitely no problem. After Huan Xuan finished speaking, a middle-aged cultivator with sharp eyes beside him walked forward with a trace of displeasure on his face. He said, Everyone, I want to thank you. I'm a disciple of Shenming sect. To be honest, I don't know what this spiritual root is. Even the sect leader of Shenming sect doesn't know. However, I can also tell you that Shenming sect is a sect that cultivates nascent soul. Shenming sect has already started to use this secret technique to select disciples a few years ago. Although we don't have a suitable cultivation method at the moment, the disciples selected with spiritual roots can also cultivate ordinary cultivation methods. However, the speed is not much faster than ordinary disciples. It's not as obvious as the Tao Alliance. As for the matter of the Tao Alliance's lockdown, I can also clearly say that Shenming sect obtained the spiritual root selection method before the Tao Alliance sealed the Heaven Sacrificial Abyss. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it. Give it as a reward. Chapter 49-34. How is that possible? Another cultivator who seemed to know something hurriedly shouted. Before the Tao Alliance announced the spiritual root selection method, they had already sealed off the Heaven Sacrificial Abyss. Your Shenming sect belongs to the Guangqing Immortal Alliance, and is more than 1,000,000 miles away from the Heaven Sacrificial Abyss. How could you have gotten it first? The cultivator named Xiahan was a little hesitant. Cough cough. At this moment, a cough was heard from the bamboo platform. Another bamboo exploded, and a familiar figure walked out from it. Wasn't that the disciple of the fallen immortal sect Zhijun, who had mysteriously disappeared? Zhijun walked out of the bamboo and glanced at everyone. He said, I will answer this question. However, Zhijun only said this sentence and was stunned on the spot. Xiaohua was tall to begin with, and when he entered Chonglin Pavilion, under Hongqing's eagerness, he walked closer to the front. Banished Lord's gaze swept over, and easily found Xiaohua. His gaze was now fixed on Xiaohua, and his face was filled with disbelief. Senior Zhang. Zhijun came to his senses and said 3 words. Then he suddenly pointed at Xiaohua and shouted, Quick, quick, he's a cultivator from the Tao Alliance. Huan Swanzi, quick, get the guards here. Dao Alliance cultivator? Huan Swanzi was shocked at first. However, when he saw Xiao Hua, he did not know whether to laugh or cry. He said, Daoistja, are you sure? Although this Daoist is a nascent soul cultivator, you can't just kill him with a stick and say that he's a cultivator from the Dao Alliance. Besides, aren't you a nascent soul cultivator too? My Heavenly Alliance. Oh no, most of the Heavenly Alliance cultivators in the Changlin Pavilion are nascent soul cultivators, right? Jejun was a little panicked, as if he had stolen someone's things and was caught red-handed. He said hurriedly, I'm not lying to you. Quick, report to the city lord. Fellow cultivator Jia. Master Huan Swan heard that Jejun wanted to report this to the city lord, and became even more unhappy. He said, take a closer look, this fellow cultivator is a nascent soul cultivator. Huan Swanzi emphasized the words nascent soul cultivators. Now that the sacrificial abyss between the Dao Alliance and the Heaven Alliance has been sealed by the Dao Alliance and the Heaven Alliance, even body integration cultivators would find it difficult to fly over, let alone nascent soul cultivators. In addition, this is Tong Lake City. Do you think that the nascent soul cultivators of the Dao Alliance will be able to pass through the defenses of Tong Lake City and enter the Chong Forest Pavilion? Huan Swanzi's last sentence was the most important. Banished Monarch had slandered a nascent soul cultivator as a Dao Alliance cultivator. He had unknowingly slapped Tong Lake City in the face. Although Master Huan Swan was displeased, some of the cultivators around Xiao Hua heard the words of the banished monarch and involuntarily stepped aside. Even Hong Qing took several steps back. Xiao Hua didn't say anything. Instead, he looked at Jejun thoughtfully, as if he wanted to see through Jejun's secret. The more Xiao Hua acted like this, the more afraid Jejun became. He couldn't help but think of Xiao Hua's might when he defeated the Flying Shadow sect with a single roar. He couldn't help but cry out, how could he be a nascent soul cultivator? When I saw him at the Nebula Ridge, he didn't have any cultivation at all. But this person with no cultivation at all was able to intimidate all the spirit beasts of the Flying Shadow sect with a single roar. Even the late nascent soul sect master fell from the sky with blood flowing out of his 7 orifices. Hearing this, Huan Swanzi's expression finally changed, and Hong Qing even retreated a dozen steps with a thump thump thump. He even forgot to fly. Instead, the nearby cultivators all flew backwards, creating a space of 300 meters around Xiao Hua. At this point, Jejun seemed to be unable to bear the contempt in Xiao Hua's eyes. He couldn't help but cry out, My spirit root selection method was created by him. Master Huan Swan's expression changed greatly when he heard this. His figure suddenly shot up into the sky, and a bamboo joint shot out from his hand. He didn't need to rush to the top of the pavilion, but instead, he immediately disappeared into the void. Boom! A loud sound rang out. All the bamboo in the Changlin Pavilion immediately glowed with a dazzling green light. Then, they roared and pounced toward Xiao Hua like giant pythons. At the same time, even more Tong Lake City guards appeared from various hiding places in the Changlin Pavilion. They activated their bodies and summoned their magic treasures, coordinating with the formation to attack Xiao Hua. Cough cough. Xiao Hua lightly coughed twice. He gently raised his hand and pointed at a spot in the array. Pa! Like glass shattering, the illusion of the array disappeared. The numerous giant pythons turned back into bamboo and fell to their original places. The frightening aura that filled the air also turned into smoke. Then, Xiao Hua waved his sleeve and blocked the guards that were charging at him. Only then did he leisurely say, This old man only came to Tong Lake City to take a look. I didn't come here specifically to catch a thief like you who stole this old man's cultivation technique. Xiao Hua said as he walked onto the bamboo platform. It was as if Master Huan Swan and the other Tong Lake City disciples were nothing to him. Senior, please spare my life. Senior, please spare my life. Jejun saw that Xiao Hua's strength was as vast as the sea, and that he was walking towards him. How could he dare to say anything more? He didn't care about the thousands of Heavenly Alliance cultivators around him, and hurriedly knelt down and begged. Master Huan Swan was even more panicked. He wanted to resist, but he didn't know how. Although Xiaohua didn't deliberately release his aura was like a giant mountain, making him breathless. What exactly happened? Xiaohua walked onto the bamboo platform and lowered his head to look at Jejun, who was kowtowing. Beside Jejun, a few disciples of Shenming sect also knelt down. After all, stealing other people's cultivation methods was a serious crime in Taoism. If they were discovered, their lives would be in danger. Jejun didn't dare to delay and hurriedly told the story. However, he didn't make it too clear in his panic. Xiaohua frowned and asked softly, I understand now. You're a disciple of Shenming sect. The Heavenly Alliance deliberately let you join the Fallen Immortal sect. That day, you were supposed to return to the Fallen Immortal sect from Xingyun Ridge. However, because you saw the spiritual root selection method, you contacted the Heavenly Alliance disciples on the spur of the moment and returned to the Heavenly Alliance? What about the 10 disciples of the Fallen Immortal sect that you selected? Senior, please no. Jejun didn't dare to delay and hurriedly reported the details. I knew that the Chanhe sect had obtained the remains of Royal Dome Spiritual Master and the Heavenly Cycle Demon subduing star formation. I already had a plan. I planned to take these things and return to the Heavenly Alliance directly. After all, the relics of a Mahayana cultivator who went through the heavenly tribulation are of great use to my Shenming sect. As for the 10 disciples of the Fallen Immortal sect, they were all disciples of Shenming sect like me. They returned to the Heavenly Alliance with me. P.S. Fellow cultivators who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward, and... Chapter 4935. Is what he said true? Xiaohua turned to look at the other Shenming school disciple, and his eyes flashed with some illusions. That nascent soul disciple only felt his vision blur, and answered somewhat sluggishly, Senior, you know, when Senior Brother Zhe returned, he did indeed bring some disciples. But as for how many there were, and whether they were disciples of the fallen celestial sect, I'm not too sure. Xiaohua withdrew his illusion and looked at the banished king. His tone was gentle as he said, You can wait for me. Yes, thank you for your forgiveness, Senior. Exiled monarch and the others were overjoyed when they heard this. They hurriedly expressed their gratitude and stood up. Xiaohua looked at the overjoyed Jejun and sighed in his heart. Of course, he liked Jejun's persistence in the Starcloud Ridge. However, he didn't expect Jejun to be a spy from the Heavenly Alliance. However, he smiled again after a while. Tao Alliance and Heavenly Alliance, was there any difference in his eyes? Oh, that's right. I heard that the spirit root selection method has already been popularized in the Tao Alliance. What's going on? Xiaohua recalled what Hongqing had just said and asked again. Before the exiled monarch could speak, Huan Xuanzi hurriedly bowed and said, Senior, this junior is aware of this matter. Okay, you say it. Xiaohua knew that Tong Lake City was well informed and must know more than Shenming cult. So he nodded and instructed. After Master Huan Xuan explained everything that had happened during the Tao Alliance's alliance meeting, including how the Tao Alliance had distributed the Qi refinement, foundation establishment, and golden core cultivation techniques to the various immortal alliances, as well as the sealing of the sacrificial abyss, he carefully looked at Xiaohua. Haha, the Tao Alliance is far too stingy. Xiaohua smiled faintly and said, However, Old Man Gu Qiong and Reverend Ji Yin have good taste. When they heard Xiaohua say that the alliance was stingy, both Fallen Monarch and Fantasy Swansea were shocked. Of course, they were able to obtain a certain amount of information, but the secret of Xiaohua's origins, they were still unclear. Also banished monarch. Xiaohua continued. You obtained this spiritual root selection method effortlessly, so why are you selling it at such a high price? Moreover, you even want to bid for it today. This doesn't seem like the righteousness you showed on Nebula Ridge. This. Banished Prince couldn't say that this was the idea of the head of Shenming cult. He could only mutter a few words and didn't dare to refute. Illusion operator. Xiaohua instructed. You can start selling 1 jade slip, 1 top-grade crystal. Actually, according to Xiaohua's thoughts, it was fine for everyone to give it to him for free. But on second thought, would she cherish something that was given to her for free? For no reason, people would think that it was a fake. It would be better if it was a bit more expensive. Okay. Huan Xuanzi agreed, but he looked at Banished King, as if he was hesitant. Banished King wished he could slap Huan Xuanzi to death. He hurriedly shouted, "Fellow Taoists, Senior Zhang has already said that this spiritual root selection method costs 1 supreme-grade crystal. So today's auction will not be held. If any fellow Taoist needs it, feel free to come and hand it over." Although the Banished King had already spoken, the cultivators in the Changlin Pavilion still did not dare to act rashly in the face of Xiaohua. The might of Xiaohua's sleeve was truly terrifying. Seeing the awkward situation, Master Huan Xuan began to sweat. At this moment, a cultivator mustered up his courage and asked, "Say, Senior, since this method of selecting spiritual roots was created by you, would it be useful for us disciples who cultivate nascent divinity?" "Of course," Xiaohua said with a smile. "No matter if our Tao sect cultivates nascent divinity or nascent soul, it is all due to the spiritual qi of heaven and earth entering the body. Now that the spiritual qi of heaven and earth has changed, the previous method of selecting disciples is ineffective. This spiritual root is the proof for ordinary children to set foot on the immortal Tao." Great. That cultivator was overjoyed and hurriedly wanted to take out the crystal to trade. However, another cultivator beside him mustered up his courage and asked, "But Senior, since they both draw in spiritual qi of heaven and earth into the body, why is the Tao Alliance and Heaven Alliance's method of selecting disciples different? Moreover, I heard that Shenming cult has already sent this method to our Heaven Alliance's alliance master. Why didn't he say anything?" Xiaohua shrugged and said, "I haven't seen the Tao Alliance and Heaven Alliance's method of selecting disciples, so I'm not sure why it's different. As for your last question, you should ask your Heaven Alliance's alliance master." Ha. Xiaohua's words made everyone laugh, and their previous nervousness disappeared by more than half. Senior. Master Huan Xuan saw this, and hurriedly took out 2 jade slips from his storage ring, and respectfully presented them. He said, "This is the method of selecting disciples who cultivate nascent soul and nascent divinity. Senior, please take a look." "Damn it, I was just casually speaking. If I couldn't see through it, wouldn't I lose face?" Xiaohua laughed and scolded, but he still took the 2 jade slips. Seeing that Xiaohua was so approachable, Master Huan Xuan was relieved and stood respectfully at the side. Xiaohua looked at the 2 jade slips and casually returned them to Master Huan Xuan. He said to everyone, "Humans have 3 spirits: essence, energy, and spirit. Essence is the foundation and spirit is the root. The Tao Alliance cultivates nascent soul and focuses on qi. The Heaven Alliance cultivates nascent divinity and focuses on essence. Therefore, the method of selecting disciples is biased. However, the spiritual roots focus on spirit. It can cover the path of essence, so the spiritual roots are suitable for the selection of nascent soul and nascent divinity disciples." "Thank you, Senior Zhang." The cultivator who was the first to arrive was already impatient. After hearing this, he hurriedly took out a top-grade crystal and wanted to hand it over to Master Huan Xuan. "I also want." For a moment, all the cultivators crazily fought over it. Seeing this, Master Huan Xuan was really flustered. How could they know that Xiaohua would appear? They thought that the rarer something was, the more valuable it was. They only prepared dozens of jade slips and waited for the cultivators to bid. How could these jade slips satisfy hundreds of cultivators? "I have." Xiaohua looked at the embarrassment of exiled monarch and Master Huan Xuan and took out more than 1,000 jade slips. Yes, Senior is thoughtful." At this moment, Master Huan Xuan didn't dare to say that Xiaohua was stealing their business. He took the jade slips and hurriedly handed them over to the cultivators. Xiaohua looked at Hongqing, who couldn't squeeze in, and threw a jade slip in front of him. He smiled and said, "Hongqing, this is a gift from me." Hongqing was overjoyed. He took the jade slip and carefully hid it. He shouted, "Thank you, Taoist Xiao." After an incense stick's time, all the cultivators got the jade slips of the spiritual roots selection method. However, Master Huan Xuan didn't have a single jade slip in front of him. Obviously, some cultivators bought more than one and wanted to bring it back to others. Master Huan Xuan took the storage ring with more than 1,000 top-grade crystals and respectfully handed it to Xiaohua. Senior, these are your crystals. Please take a look. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect reward. Thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 4936. Okay. Xiaohua took the storage ring and took out hundreds of crystals from it, placing them in front of the banished king. This is what Xunming taught me. The banished king was extremely embarrassed. He smiled apologetically. This cultivation method is senior's. Junior doesn't dare to take these crystals. Just take it when I tell you to, Xiaohua said indifferently. However, in the future, when you sell it, it must be one top-grade crystal, no more. Yes, yes. The banished king was somewhat confused, but he still hurriedly took the crystals. Since the spiritual root selection method had been sold out, the cultivators who entered the Changlin Pavilion should have left. However, none of the thousands of cultivators left. They all held their breaths and looked at Xiaohua with rapt attention, as if they were expecting something. Strangely, every cultivator kept their mouths shut, not daring to open their mouths. Seeing this, Huan Xuan was somewhat helpless. He looked at the banished king and gave him a look. The banished king's mouth was bitter. He thought for a moment and said, Senior Zhang, Junior thanks Senior for giving the spiritual root selection method to the Heaven Alliance. However, Senior should also know that it's not enough to just have the spiritual root selection method without the spiritual root cultivation method. Junior heard that the Tao Alliance already has the cultivation method for Golden Core disciples. I wonder if Senior can give this spiritual root selection method to the Golden Core disciples. At this point, the banished king didn't dare to say anything more. He looked at Xiaohua with a kind of pleading look. Oh, is that so? Xiaohua slapped his forehead and said, This old man actually forgot about this. This old man has a set of cultivation methods suitable for spiritual roots to cultivate. It ranges from chi refining to great ascension. Who wants it? Ah, everyone was silent. No one agreed, and no one dared to breathe a sigh of relief. The banished king only wanted a cultivation method to cultivate to Golden Core. But the cultivator in front of him, who seemed to only have the strength of nascent soul, actually took out a cultivation method to cultivate to Mahayana. Not to mention that this kind of magnanimity stunned everyone. But, in their ears, these words sounded like a lie. Really? After a while, the banished king came back to his senses and shouted, Senior, this cultivation method. How many crystals do you want? As soon as he finished speaking, the banished king immediately regretted his words. He hurriedly corrected himself and said, Senior, this junior knows his mistake. If you need anything, please tell me. Senior. Illusory Swansea came to his senses a little too late, and hurriedly called out. Senior, you can tell this junior whatever you need. Tong Lake City will definitely satisfy all of your requests. The exiled monarch and Huan Swansea opened their mouths. The cultivators below the bamboo platform were unable to open their mouths. At this moment, it was no longer a question of whether they believed Xiaohua or not. Instead, it was a question of whether they dared to take this cultivation method or not. Call your city lord over. Xiaohua looked at Huan Swansea and ordered. I'm afraid you can't make the decision. Yes, this junior will go and ask for the city lord's help. Actually, when Xiaohua was blocking the attack of the Changlin Pavilion's formation, Huan Swansea had already seen the disciples of Tong Lake City fleeing in panic. They must have gone to ask for help, but for some reason, the city lord still hadn't come. Huan Swansea quickly replied with a smile. Seeing that Huan Swansea had left, Xiaohua looked at the cultivators on the left and said, I can't give you cultivation methods that can directly cultivate to the Mahayana stage. Otherwise, once you leave the Changlin Pavilion, you will be hunted down by the disciples of Tong Lake City. How about this? This old man has a cultivation method jade slip, that can cultivate to the late stage of the spirit severing stage. Each jade slip costs 30 top-grade crystal stones. Who dares to take it? 30 top-grade crystal stones? The group of nascent soul cultivators were dumbfounded. They didn't expect that such a precious cultivation method would actually only cost 30 top-grade crystal stones. Senior. Suddenly, a cultivator who was concealing his cultivation base and his true appearance shouted loudly, "This junior needs a cultivation method that can cultivate to the late stage of the void refinement stage. Senior, can you sell it to me?" "Of course you can. Every cultivation base increases by 10 top-grade crystal stones," Xiaohua said with a smile, and took out another jade slip. "Damn it, I'll do it." That cultivator who was concealing his true appearance cursed in a low voice, before flying in front of Xiaohua and respectfully handing over a storage ring to Xiaohua. "Senior, this is the thing that this junior wants to bid for the spiritual root selection method." This junior didn't expect to actually be able to obtain a cultivation method for spiritual roots. "This thing is all given to Senior." "Okay." Xiaohua took the storage ring and handed the jade slip to the cultivator, saying, "You first check if it's real or not." After leaving the Chonglin pavilion, this old man won't admit it. That cultivator was a little embarrassed, but he began to use his divine sense to check it. After a moment, that cultivator said with ecstasy, "Thank you, Senior. Thank you, Senior." After saying that cultivator didn't stay for a moment and rushed out of the Chonglin pavilion. "Senior." There were already cultivators rushing over and shouting, "This junior wants a cultivation method that can cultivate to the late stage of the nascent soul stage." Xiaohua raised his hand and took out some jade slips, saying, "This is a nascent soul cultivation method. Help this old man sell it." "Yes, this junior understands." Fei Jun hurriedly took it, and then said to some other disciples, "You all quickly come and help Senior Zhang." Xiaohua also gave some other jade slips to the disciples of Shenming sect. They were cultivation methods that could cultivate to the spirit severing stage, void refinement stage, and unification stage. Senior. Hong Qing was a cultivator who was somewhat familiar with Xiaohua. Although he was afraid in his heart, he also knew that Xiaohua wasn't as strict as everyone thought. He gathered his courage and went forward with a smile. "Senior, you are a little biased. How come all the cultivation methods can be used by nascent soul cultivators? Cultivators like us who cultivate primordial spirit are also Tao cultivators. Senior, you can't favor one and discriminate against the other." "This old man is a nascent soul cultivator." Xiaohua looked at the fat monk angrily and said, "So this old man has so many cultivation methods. What about it? You're not satisfied?" No. Hong Qing hurriedly smiled and said, "This junior doesn't dare. This junior just wants to see if Senior still has any cultivation methods for primordial spirit. How many top-grade crystal stones do you have?" Xiaohua rolled his eyes and said, "You can't even afford to raise a tyrannical tiger, and you still want to buy cultivation methods? This junior only has 10 top-grade crystal stones." Hong Qing took out 10 top-grade crystal stones and said, "I originally wanted to buy the method of selecting spiritual root today. If Senior thinks it's too little, then I'll sell the tyrannical tiger to Senior." With that, Hong Qing waved his big sleeve and took out the tyrannical tiger. Who knew that the tyrannical tiger seemed to have heard something? As soon as it came out of the sleeve, it immediately hugged Hong Qing's thigh with its 4 hooves, and its tail wrapped around Hong Qing's calf. Its pair of eyes looked at Xiaohua pitifully, as if it was begging. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote a monthly vote a recommendation vote, collect a gift, and thank you for all kinds of support. Chapter 4937. Needless to say, Xiaohua's cultivation methods were naturally modified during the years when Demon Venerable Shi refined the blood evil spiritual pearl. After modifying the nascent soul cultivation method, Xiaohua also thought of the Heavenly Alliance cultivators who cultivated the nascent soul. He had obtained the nascent soul cultivation method in the upper realm, and even comprehended it while cultivating. Therefore, although modifying the nascent soul cultivation method was more difficult than modifying the nascent soul cultivation method. Xiaohua had modified it to the early stage of the return to void realm in these years. Only the void refinement in Dao integration realms were not considered to be perfect, so he did not modify it. At this moment, Xiaohua saw the group of cultivators who modified the nascent soul looking at him pitifully like the tyrant tiger, and he unconsciously made a decision. Damn it, why is this spirit beast the same as Hongqing? Xiaohua knew that this tyrant tiger was putting on an act, but he really liked this kind of spirit beast, and this kind of cultivator, who was close to being a scoundrel. He cursed in his heart, then took out a jade slip and threw it to Hongqing. Take it, why aren't you leaving? Yes, thank you, senior. Hongqing took the jade slip, turned around and left without even looking at it, and did not even leave a piece of low-grade crystal. Senior. Seeing that Hongqing got a bargain, a nearby cultivator who cultivated the nascent soul hurriedly shouted, I need the return to void refinement cultivation method. 50 top-grade crystals. Xiaohua said without hesitation. Don't think it's too much. It's too difficult to modify the nascent soul cultivation method. Yes, I can't ask for more. How dare I say no? The cultivator did not dare to say anything, and hurriedly offered the crystals. Xiaohua rolled up his sleeves and took the crystals, then threw a jade slip to the cultivator. This cultivator was not like Hongqing. He took the jade slip and studied it carefully. After a few breaths, the cultivator's expression changed greatly. He looked left and right, and hurriedly put the jade slip away. Then, he turned into a gust of wind and left. This time, no cultivator hesitated, and they all shouted, Senior, I also want, Xiaohua shouted. Those who need qi refining, spirit restoring, and void restoring. These 4 types of cultivation methods. Divide them into 4 groups. For each higher realm, you'll get 20 top-grade crystals. Take 1 cultivator from each group, and give them to me. Before Xiaohua could finish speaking, 4 cultivators of various realms raised their hands and said, Fellow Taoists, quickly. As a result, the remaining cultivators who cultivated their nascent soul immediately gathered around the 4 cultivators like flies that had smelled meat, and each of them took out their crystals. Describing these cultivators as flies was naturally a bit despicable, but looking at their hurried and anxious appearance, it was true. The reason why they were in such a hurry was naturally because they wanted to obtain the cultivation technique as soon as possible, so that they could leave Tong Lake City as soon as possible and escape from Tong Lake City's sphere of influence. This was because they were afraid of Tong Lake City's city lord, Reverend Emerald Lake. Even they knew the value of these cultivation methods to the Heavenly Alliance. How could the Azure Lake Sage not know? Xiaohua might not be afraid of the Azure Lake Sage, but they were afraid that if the Azure Lake Sage had any other thoughts, they might die without a burial place. While everyone was scrambling for the cultivation method in the Chonglim Pavilion, Huan Xuan had already reached the 9th floor through the transmission formation in Tong Lake City. When he showed his token, and arrived at a hall that looked like a mountain rock floating in the clear water, he was so angry that his nose was almost crooked. This was because a few Tong Lake City disciples who had escaped from the Chonglim Pavilion were guarding in front of the hall. It seemed that they did not inform the Azure Lake Sage at all. Damn it! Huan Xuan arrived on the waves and scolded. Why did you escape? Why didn't you die in the Chonglim Pavilion? I asked you to inform the city lord. Why hasn't the city lord seen him yet? Without waiting for Huan Xuan to finish, the disciple said with a long face, Sir, it's not that we don't want to inform him, but the city lord has completely sealed off the Lake Heart Hall. We can't inform him. Damn it. If that's the case, why don't you? Master Huan Xuan was still angry and wanted to curse. However, he shut his mouth after cursing halfway. Since Master Bihu had sealed off the Lake Heart Hall, and there were no guards nearby, it meant that there was an extremely important guest visiting. Not to mention the fact that these disciples couldn't report it. Even he couldn't report it. Thinking of this, Huan Xuan could not help sweating again. Therefore, Huan Xuan gritted his teeth and flew up the stairs. However, before he could get close, a cold and gentle force blocked him. No matter how he activated his magic power, he could not get close at all. Huan Xuan waved his hand and took out a flying shuttle. He opened his mouth and poured a mouthful of essence blood into the flying shuttle. Then, he made a gesture, and the flying shuttle rushed into the Lake Heart Hall, like an elite guard. "Sir," the disciple beside him said in a low voice, "this is an emergency communication Dharma artifact that the city lord personally gave us. We can only use it as a last resort. Sir, why are you using it now? Aren't you afraid that the city lord will blame you?" "Sigh, if the city lord blames me, I can only bear it." Huan Xuan smiled bitterly. "You don't understand what this Senior Zhang Xiaohua means to the Tao Alliance and the Heaven Alliance. If I hadn't seen the message from the Tao Alliance, I wouldn't have dared to be so reckless." This is so serious." The disciples were dumbfounded. They did not know much. In their eyes, there were not many people in the world who could be more powerful than the Azure Lake Sage. Huan Xuan ignored their surprise and continued speaking as if he wanted to reduce the pressure. "If I don't send out the communication Dharma artifact now, and Senior Zhang is missing when the city lord comes out, none of us will be able to bear the consequences if the city lord blames us. Rather than that, why don't we risk being punished by the city lord and send out the message first?" As he was speaking, there was a soft swoosh, and a water current rolled up from the rock. The water current flowed down from the stairs and landed in front of Huan Xuan and the disciples. Huan Xuan did not greet the disciples and jumped onto the water current. The water current carried him against the current and into the Lake Heart Palace. The remaining disciples looked at each other and moved their gazes away from the water current. The water current dried up again in a moment. Huan Xuan followed the water current and passed through the soft restriction. As the water current flashed, they arrived in a large palace. This palace was different from ordinary palaces. It looked like an island with beautiful scenery. The floor of the palace was clearly a vast ocean. Looking up on this lush island, there were thousands of vines that shot up into the sky like horned dragons. They intertwined with pythons above the island and formed a very primitive vine pavilion. The various green leaves on the vines swayed in the salty sea breeze. The sound of the waves and the swaying of the vines entered Huan Xuan's ears. Vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it and give it a tip." Chapter 4938. Master Huan Xuan was already familiar with this strange scene. He urged the waves under his feet and flew toward the vine pavilion like lightning. Before he could get close, he heard a slightly high-pitched voice. "Esteemed Master Bihu, I'll leave the matter of the magnetism to your Tong Lake City. Once the person succeeds, I'll tell my ancestral teacher and ask him to personally come to Tong Lake City." "Oh, who's that? How can he be so arrogant?" When Huan Xuanzi heard this voice directly address the city lord as esteemed Master Bihu, he couldn't help but feel slightly shocked. He thought to himself. Then a faint voice sounded. "It's my dream to be able to serve Senior Kong. There's no need to thank him. I wouldn't dare to ask him to personally come to Tong Lake City. Come, let me toast fellow Kong." "All right, please," the voice answered with satisfaction. Master Huan Xuan flew closer and saw the two people sitting in the vine pavilion. Before he could see the appearance of the cultivator in a 5-colored robe sitting opposite esteemed Master Bihu, Master Huan Xuan's extremely displeased voice sounded. "Can't you see that I'm receiving an important guest in the Lake Heart Hall? Why didn't you send any urgent messages?" "Esteemed City Lord." Master Huan Xuan didn't dare to get close. He stopped in the jade waves and hurriedly answered, "I have an urgent matter to report to esteemed City Lord." "Speak." Esteemed Master Bihu said impatiently. Master Huan Xuan hesitated. In just an instant, esteemed Master Bihu scolded, "Damn thing! This is Senior Kong Jing from the Peacock Mountain Manor. What can Tong Lake City hide from the Peacock Mountain Manor?" "Ah, Peacock Mountain Manor?" Huan Xuanzi opened his mouth in shock. He wanted to say something, but he stopped. After thinking for a while, he said, "All right, City Lord. You should know that Senior Zhang Xiaohua is currently in my Tong Lake City's Changlin Pavilion. Do you want to go and meet him?" "Zhang Xiaohua?" Esteemed Master Bihu was confused. He frowned and said, "Who's Zhang Xiaohua?" How come I don't remember? He came to Tong Lake City. And you want me to meet him? As he spoke, Master Bihu even glanced at Kong Jing and said with a smile, Don't you think so, Taoist Kong? That's right. Who knows who this Zhang Xiaohua is? Kong Jing chimed in with a smile. Huan Xuanzi's back was drenched in sweat as he hurriedly whispered, City Lord, don't you remember? The Tao Alliance, the one who created the spirit root selection technique. Before Huan Xuanzi could finish, Master Bihu flew out of the pavilion with a whoosh. His face was filled with inexplicable excitement as he exclaimed, Huan Xuanzi, are you telling the truth? Of course it's real. Huan Xuan hurriedly explained, Senior Zhang is selling complete nascent soul cultivation techniques that can be cultivated to the Mahayana stage in the Changlin Pavilion. Damn it, why didn't you say so earlier? Master Bihu raised his hand as if to slap Huan Xuanzi. However, just as he raised his hand, he put it down again, as if he had remembered that he had sealed the Lake Heart Hall. At this moment, Master Bihu seemed to have thought of something. His body swayed, and he landed in the pavilion. He cupped his hands and said, Taoist Kong, I have some city affairs to deal with. Why don't you? You're welcome. Kong Jing had already stood up and said lightly, I've heard it. However, as far as I know, Zhang Xiaohua has already died in the blood fiend demonic formation of the demon clan. How could he appear in Tong Lake City? Ah, Zhang Xiaohua has died. Master Bihu was even more shocked. Why didn't I know? However, after he finished speaking, he looked at Kong Jing and smiled apologetically. Yes. Although I'm in charge of Tong Lake City, I'm not in the Heaven Alliance. I'm sure the Heaven Alliance has more detailed information. Even the ordinary alliance leader of the Heaven Alliance. I'm afraid he doesn't know about this. Kong Jing said proudly. I've only heard about this from my grandmaster occasionally. Master Bihu was more convinced after hearing this. He glared at Huan Xuanzi with anger. Huan Xuanzi was also surprised and did not dare to say anything. Master Bihu hurriedly smiled apologetically and said, I'm a little ignorant. Taoist Kong, please enlighten me. Actually, it's nothing much. Kong Jing kept him in suspense. She paused for a moment and continued. According to my grandmaster, Zhang Xiaohua was invited by a family in the Tao Alliance to teach them how to select spiritual roots. In the end, the family leader was possessed by the demon clan. The demon clan set up a blood fiend demonic formation in the family. Not only did they kill Zhang Xiaohua, but they also sacrificed the entire family. Oh my! Master Bihu was shocked. How could the demon clan be so powerful? They even wanted to possess the family leader of an immortal cultivator family? Sigh, that's right. Kong Jing sighed. The spirit chi of heaven and earth has changed. The immortal world gate has closed. Every Taoist cultivator is in danger. The demon clan is rampant in this world. That's right. Huan Xuanzi suddenly exclaimed. City Lord, I remember now. That Shenming cult's banished lord is also in the Changlin Pavilion. He recognized Zhang Xiaohua. I don't think it's fake. Banished lord? Shenming cult's spy in the Tao Alliance? Master Bihu was startled. How did he recognize Zhang Xiaohua? City Lord. Huan Xuanzi hurriedly reminded him. Didn't a jade slip mention this before? The sect that banished lord is a spy is called the Fallen Immortal Sect. The Fallen Immortal Sect. That's right. This banished lord obtained the spiritual roots selection method from the Tao Alliance. He saw Zhang Xiaohua before. The city lord couldn't stand it anymore. He hurriedly nodded and said, Zhang Xiaohua is now the most respected Taoist cultivator of the Tao Alliance. She has become the Tao Alliance's savior. Maybe she has a way to escape from the blood fiend demonic array. That's impossible. Kong Jing still didn't believe it. That day, Elder Gu Qiong and Ji Yanjinren went to that family and saw Zhang Xiaohua being sacrificially refined with their own eyes. Haha, Taoist Kong, please wait here for a moment. Master Bihu said with a smile. I'll be right back. I'll go with you, Kong Jing said proudly. Since I'm here, I can't let you be fooled. That's great. Master Bihu was overjoyed. He raised his hand and said, Taoist Kong, please. Xiaohua naturally didn't know that the news of his death had spread to the Heavenly Alliance. After dealing with the cultivators of the Heavenly Alliance with the cultivation technique of the Essence Soul, he looked to the side and saw that the disciples of the Shun Ming cult had also sent away the cultivators of the nascent soul realm. Banished Lord respectfully handed 2 storage rings to Xiao Hua with both hands and said, "These are the crystals that were just sold. They are. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it and give it a tip. Thank you to Blossoming Blossom Withering Flower, Sword, Chuan Tong, and other fellow Taoists for their tips. Thank you for your support. I'll add a small chapter first. Next week, 6,000 words will be restored. In addition, I really want to add more chapters. Unfortunately, this book is coming to an end, and I think it's better to finish it with a perfect ending. Thank you again. I'll give you a primal soul cultivation technique and a nascent soul cultivation technique. Xiaohua laughed. As for the other nascent soul cultivation technique, you have to think of a way to give it to the Tao Alliance. Zhijun smiled wryly and said, Senior Zhang, you think too highly of me. How can I meet the leader of the Heavenly Alliance? Of course, this junior will give these 2 jade slips to my sect master. Sect master should be able to offer them to Lord Alliance leader. But the Tao Alliance, I definitely won't be able to do it. Don't worry. Xiaohua laughed. This old man has already recorded my intentions in the jade slips. You only need to offer these 3 jade slips to the Heavenly Alliance. Then this junior understands. The banished king felt that his burden had been greatly lightened and hurriedly replied. Just as they were talking, the Chonglin Pavilion's array emitted a terrifying buzzing sound again. The surrounding bamboo joints transformed into pythons that danced in the air. Each and every one of them roared as they pounced outside the pavilion. The entire Chonglin Pavilion shone brightly, and 2 figures appeared in front of the hundreds of pythons' bamboo joints. The person in front was Master Bihu, who was dressed in a lake blue robe. As soon as he entered, his gaze was like lightning as he looked at Xiao Hua. Kong Jing, who was behind him, released her divine sense and scanned the entire Chonglin Pavilion. This is fellow Taoist Zhang Xiaohua? Master Bihu was slightly surprised when he saw that Xiaohua was only in the nascent soul realm. Fellow Taoist, are you the city lord of Tong Lake City? Xiaohua asked in displeasure when he saw that Master Bihu did not introduce himself. At this moment, Kong Jing had already scanned the Chonglin Pavilion with her divine sense and landed on Xiaohua. However, in addition to her divine sense, Kong Jing's originally pitch-black eyes suddenly glowed with 5 colors. Yes, this old man is the city lord of Tong Lake City, Master Bihu. Master Bihu realized that he was being a little rude and hurriedly cupped his hands with a smile. I didn't expect the famous fellow Taoist Zhang Xiaohua to come to my Tong Lake City. This is really a surprise. Zhang Xiaohua was about to speak when Kong Jing, who was beside Master Bihu, snorted coldly. You're just a nascent soul cultivator, yet you dare to pretend to be Zhang Xiaohua in front of this old man. If I don't let you know how powerful the Heavenly Alliance cultivators are, you'll think that the Heavenly Alliance cultivators are all idiots. While speaking, Kong Jing raised her hand and stretched out her 5 fingers, grabbing towards Xiaohua. Above the 5 fingers, a 5-colored light flashed from the 5 fingers, completely enveloping the surrounding hundreds of feet. A suffocating sealing force was actually born from this simple grasp. Fellow Taoist Kong, Master Bihu was stunned. He did not know why Kong Jing thought that Xiaohua was a fake and immediately attacked him. He could not help but shout in a low voice. However, seeing the 5-colored light appearing from Kong Jing's fingers, Master Bihu immediately understood what she meant. He secretly gritted his teeth, and his figure flashed back slightly. He thought to himself, damn it, this Kong Jing must have some secret that she hasn't told this old man. Otherwise, how could she use the 5-colored sealing technique right off the bat? This Zhang Xiaohua must be the real Zhang Xiaohua. This guy wants to seal Zhang Xiaohua and send her to the Heavenly Alliance. No, send her to the Peacock Manor to ask for a reward. After all, this Zhang Xiaohua is really too important. Oh, Xiaohua was also very surprised. He looked in confusion at the light and shadow that sealed off the surrounding space. It wasn't because Kong Jing suddenly attacked him, but because this five-colored light and shadow was very strange. It actually matched with the five elements. The five-colored light and shadow controlled the power of the five elements in the surrounding space. Not only did it isolate the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, even Xiaohua's divine sense was showing signs of being restricted. However, just as the five-colored light closed, Xiaohua smiled faintly. Haha, fellow Taoist, what is the meaning of this? Do you want to seal this old man? What? This Kong wants to seal you, the fake Zhang Xiaohua. Seeing that Xiaohua did not have the strength to fight back, Kong Jing could not help but laugh sinisterly. I'll take you to the ancestor, and let him deal with you. Oh, who is the ancestor of your family? Xiaohua said with a smile, as if chatting, but at the same time, he waved his hand. Kacha! A burst of thunder sounded, and a giant hand of lightning appeared. That hand of lightning was like the condensation of a dragon's lightning. Under the lightning, a layer of annihilation was like a vast wave, flooding the five-colored barrier. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote a monthly vote a recommendation vote, collect a gift, and thank all forms of support. Chapter 4940. Rumble. The entire Changlim pavilion shook with a loud roar. The bamboo pythons, which seemed to have some momentum earlier, were now like loaches under the might of the large thunderbolt hand and the five-colored light shadow. They were all defeated amidst the trembling sounds. Of course, along with the collapse of the bamboo pythons, was the extremely powerful five-colored barrier in Master Bihu's eyes. Hiss! Master Bihu stabilized his body in the shaking. Seeing that the five-colored light shadow was destroyed by the lightning hand, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. He was shocked in his heart. Kong Jing is a void refinement cultivator like me. He may not have used his full strength, but this is the secret technique of the Peacock Mountain Manor's disciple. With Zhang Xiaohua's nascent soul strength, he couldn't have taken it so easily, right? Could it be that this Zhang Xiaohua is already a Mahayana cultivator? Ah! Not only was Master Bihu shocked, but Kong Jing was also stunned. He whispered, You actually recovered. However, Kong Jing only said half a sentence before he slapped his own forehead and shouted, It's only been 3 to 5 years. How much of your magic power can you recover? Boom! Kong Jing slapped his own forehead. However, unlike nascent soul cultivators, the top of his head didn't spurt out a beam of light or a nascent soul. Instead, his whole body was suffused with five-colored light. The light rushed into the air and condensed together. It was a five-colored peacock Dharma body that seemed to be somewhat solid. Damn it, the Dharma body of a true spirit nascent soul. Master Bihu saw this and didn't dare to be negligent. His body flashed quickly. Master Banished, who had already dodged to the side when Master Bihu appeared, was also shocked. He wanted to warn him, but when he saw that the space around him was already filled with five-colored light, he could only move his body to the side. As soon as Kong Jing's five-colored peacock Dharma body materialized, it immediately flapped its wings and pounced toward Xiaohua. The sealing power of the five-colored light shadow suddenly became several times stronger. Hee! Xiaohua wanted to activate his thunderbolt technique, but when he saw the banished king dodging in panic, he waved his hand and summoned the seal of the tumbling sea. He raised his finger, and the seal of the tumbling sea grew to the size of several acres. It smashed towards Kong Jing's five-colored peacock Dharma body like a giant mountain. However, what made Xiaohua's jaw drop was that the right wing of the five-colored peacock celestial body emitted a five-colored light screen before the seal of the overturn the sea landed. With a whoosh, it landed on the jade-like light of the seal of the overturn the sea, and the light of the seal of the overturn the sea was immediately extinguished. The rumbling sound also disappeared, and the five-colored light screen rapidly shrank. Haha, this five-colored sealing barrier is interesting. Xiaohua laughed and ignored the falling seal of turning the sea. He raised his hand and took out the five elements wishful heaven cudgel from the space. When the cudgel grew to a size of several hundred feet, Xiaohua waved the cudgel and smashed it down. Oomph! Seeing the seal of turning the sea being brushed down by the five-colored light, Kong Jing coldly snorted. She was still arrogant. And then she waved her left wing again, wanting to brush the cudgel away. However, when the five-colored light brushed past the cudgel trembled and only shrank a little. Boom! The cudgel still smashed into the five-colored peacock's celestial body. Ayo! The light around the five-colored peacock Dharma body shone brightly, and then became extremely distorted. As Kong Jing wailed, the Dharma body carried him and rolled around in pain in Chonglin Pavilion. The five-colored peacock Dharma body trembled and shrank back into Kong Jing's body. Moreover, with the withdrawal of the true spirit celestial body, the pain on Kong Jing's face doubled, and her left arm trembled involuntarily. Xiaohua smiled coldly and raised his hand to take back the seal of turning the sea. The wishful heaven cudgel in his hand also went into the space. Say, Senior, seeing Xiaohua defeat Kong Jing's true spirit celestial body, how could Master Bihu still regard Xiaohua as a nascent soul cultivator? He hurriedly stepped forward and bowed. Junior and Kong Jing had eyes but failed to see. Please forgive us, Senior. Kong Jing is also a person who abhors evil. Seeing that someone wanted to pretend to be Senior. Shut up, Xiaohua said coldly. Do you think this old man can't see his intentions? Yes, Junior knows. Master Bihu's cultivation was similar to Kong Jing's, but as the city lord of Tong Lake City, he had much more experience than Kong Jing, who was a disciple of the Peacock Mountain Manor. He immediately followed Xiaohua's words and said, Junior also just understood his intentions. But what? Xiaohua glanced at Master Bihu, causing Master Bihu's heart to tremble. But how could Master Bihu dare to let Kong Jing die in Tong Lake City? He hurriedly smiled and said, After all, he is also greedy for merit. Who let Senior be as brilliant as the sun in the Yilin continent? An existence that is the focus of hundreds of millions of cultivators. If we are lucky enough to invite Senior to the Peacock Mountain Manor, this would be a great merit. Do you know what is called a man who is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant? Xiaohua looked coldly at Kong Jing, who was struggling to get up from the ground, and said, This old man gave you the Heavenly Alliance's spiritual root selection method and the primordial spirit cultivation method, but you are still not satisfied and want to capture me. Are you ready to kill the goose that lays the golden eggs? Could it be that you know that my magic power has not recovered, so you want to take advantage of my precarious situation and attack me first? Why don't you take a look at your own strength? You are only in the void refinement realm, and you dare to show off in front of me. If not for the fact that you are a junior, this old man will definitely kill you with this strike. Senior, Master Bihu heard and was even more frightened. He knelt down and said, Junior thanks Senior on behalf of Kong Jing for not killing me. Hearing Xiaohua's words and seeing Master Bihu kneel in such a manner, the arrogant Kong Jing's face turned ashen. He finally lowered his head, kneeled and said, Junior thanks Senior for not killing me. Banished King and the other disciples of Shinming cult were dumbfounded. Who was Master Bihu, and who was Kong Jing of the Peacock Manor? They were even more clear than Xiaohua. They could never have imagined that these two experts, who they would normally never see face to face, would actually kneel in front of Xiaohua. Seeing Kong Jing kneel down, Xiaohua's anger was mostly gone. He flicked his sleeves and said, Get up. Yes, it's all because of my greed. Although Kong Jing still had some resentment in his heart, he did not dare to say anything. He followed Master Bihu's words and said, Junior should not have taken advantage of the situation. There is nothing wrong with being greedy. Which cultivator in the world is not greedy? Xiaohua looked at Kong Jing and said lightly, Greed has to be moderate. Taking must be done according to the will of heaven and conscience. Only then can one have a solid Taoist foundation and be fearless. Kong Jing was still somewhat disdainful, but he still nodded. Master Bihu said humbly, Yes, Junior understands. Perhaps Kong Jing does not feel these words deeply, but as the city lord of a big city, I really feel that these words are very harsh. Even if Junior understands, it is extremely difficult to do it. Junior will definitely correct himself in the future. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qitian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, and thank all forms of support. Chapter 49-41. Forget it, forget it. Xiaohua looked at Kong Jing's neck, which was still a bit stiff, and looked unconvinced. He casually waved his hand and said, "Your bloodline has already been injured by this old man. Don't use your bloodline Dharma body for 1,000 years. Moreover, after returning to the Peacock Manor, use your sex bloodline secret technique to meditate for 1,000 years. This 1,000 years, just think of it as seclusion. Remember, don't use your Dharma body, or you will die." Kong Jing's face changed greatly. He looked at Xiaohua with some disbelief. Although he felt that his Dharma body was injured, he also knew that as long as he meditated for a few years, he would recover. How could it be as serious as Xiaohua said? He felt that Xiaohua was bluffing. Senior. Master Bihu was also shocked. He hurriedly bowed and said, "Senior, please take pity on this junior. If Kong Jing was seriously injured in this junior's Tong Lake City, wouldn't the Peacock Manor tear down this junior's Tong Lake City? Senior, can you be magnanimous?" Xiaohua shook his head lightly and said, "Don't blame this old man. This old man didn't do anything ruthless. It's just that the Peacock Manor's 5 colors Dharma body is based on the 5 elements primordial spirit, and this old man's wishful steel rod is not one of the 5 elements. It is the nemesis of this 5 colors Dharma body. Tell me, if he doesn't meditate for 1,000 years, how can he recover?" When Kong Jing heard Xiaohua mention the 5 elemental origin spirits, his face turned deathly pale. He knew that what Xiaohua said was not false, and he also knew that Xiaohua had already shown mercy. Thus he respectfully said, "Yes, this junior understands. This junior will return to the Peacock Manor and meditate for 1,000 years. Don't worry." Xiaohua raised his hand and said, "How do you know this old man's power is completely gone? Tell me everything you know." "Yes, this junior will speak first." How could Master Bihu miss a good opportunity to make friends with Xiaohua? He hurriedly said, "Taoist Kong, please adjust your breath first. After this junior finishes speaking, let's see if there is anything I missed. Taoist Kong, please add." "N." Xiaohua nodded slightly, and Kong Jing didn't say anything else. He still had the pride of an aristocratic family, so he wouldn't steal the limelight from Master Bihu. After the esteemed Master Bihu finished speaking, he looked at Kong Jing again. He knew very well that he only knew about 60% to 70% of the information. The other 30% or 40% was the most secretive information. It was impossible for him to know about it. Of course, if it was just Kong Jing, how would he have the chance to speak? Kong Jing cleared her throat and told Xiaohua everything she knew. Xiaohua pinched his chin and laughed. "Damn it, it's just a blood fiend demonic formation. How could it possibly take this old man's life?" Old man Gu Qiong and Ji Yanjinren are underestimating me. It's not just the 2 seniors from the Tao Alliance. Kong Jing's flattery skills were slightly better than Master Emerald Lake's. He said softly, "Even Senior Long Shenxi of the Sky Alliance and my ancestor, Old Man Peacock, feel that you have no chance of surviving." "Enough." Xiaohua looks at Kong Jing and waves his hand. "Don't say so much nonsense. Let me ask you, did you come alone, or were you followed by other disciples of the Peacock Mountain Manor?" "Of course there were other disciples," Kong Jing replied in confusion. "N." Hearing Kong Jing's words, Xiaohua took out 4 jade slips from his chest and handed them to Kong Jing. "You dared to attack this old man. This old man wanted to punish you. But since you're just a junior, I didn't want to argue with you. This is a complete spiritual root selection method, a complete nascent soul cultivation method, and 2 complete nascent soul cultivation methods. Help me bring them to Old Man Peacock, and ask him to pass them to the Alliance Master of the Sky Alliance. Consider it my compensation to you." Happiness came too suddenly, and Kong Jing couldn't believe it. He stared blankly at the 4 jade slips in front of him, and didn't take them for a long time. Master Bihu's eyes flashed with a scorching light. He greedily looked at the 4 jade slips. He understood the meaning of the 4 jade slips better than Kong Jing. Through the jade slips, he could almost see countless crystals and countless desires being satisfied. Plop. Suddenly, Kong Jing willingly kneeled on the ground and kowtowed to Xiaohua. Senior Zhang, I was really blinded. You prioritized the inheritance of the Sky Alliance and the fate of the billions of cultivators in the Sky Alliance. Junior's Dao heart isn't even one of Senior's billions. Junior sincerely asks for Senior's forgiveness for my previous rashness. Alas, get up. You're so emotional. Xiaohua helped Kong Jing up and said, You're all my juniors. How can I take your immaturity to heart? Yes, Junior understands. A long-lost feeling arose in Kong Jing's heart. This feeling made him feel more at ease than when he was in front of Old Man Peacock. Then Kong Jing took the 4 jade slips. Suddenly, he was stunned and asked curiously, Senior, why are there 2 nascent soul cultivation methods? My Peacock Mountain Manor also cultivates the primordial spirit. Oh, the nascent soul cultivation method was given to the Dao Alliance master by the Sky Alliance. Xiaohua said with a smile. Ah, how can you give it to the Dao Alliance? Kong Jing wasn't the only one who was shocked. Even Master Emerald Lake cried out. Master Bihu even said, Senior Zhang, you're a cultivator of the Sky Alliance. How can you give the nascent soul cultivation method to the Dao Alliance? Moreover, don't forget that the Dao Alliance has sealed the spiritual root selection method from the Sky Alliance. Although Kong Jing had revealed many secrets, he didn't know much. The information was still stuck at the stage where Xiaohua was suspected to be a rogue cultivator of the Sky Alliance. That was why Master Bihu said that. That's Old Man Gu Qiong's wild guess. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, My background isn't what you think. Therefore, in my eyes, both the Sky Alliance and the Dao Alliance are Dao sect disciples. I'll treat them equally, since the Dao Alliance sealed the heaven sacrificial abyss, and even gave you a fake spiritual root selection method. I'll give you a real spiritual root selection method. Oh, the spirit root selection method that Shen Ming taught that banished monarch brought back is real. Now, since I've given the Heaven Alliance a complete set of nascent soul cultivation methods from essence refinement to void return, and a complete set of nascent soul cultivation methods from chi refinement to tribulation transcendence, I naturally have to give the complete set of nascent soul cultivation methods to the Dao Alliance. The change in the spiritual energy of heaven and earth is a great calamity for the Dao sect. However, it's not a hopeless situation. The Dao Alliance and the Sky Alliance are brothers. If we work together, we'll definitely be able to overcome this calamity. Tell this to Long Shenxi, and he'll definitely understand. P.S. Fellow cultivators who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward and... Chapter 49-42. Kong Jing was dumbfounded, and so was Master Bihu. They knew that this jade slip was important, and that it contained the cultivation method that Xiaohua had modified. However, they had never imagined that this jade slip would actually contain a complete cultivation method from the chi refining stage to the tribulation transcendence stage. Moreover, it even contained a nearly complete cultivation method for the nascent soul stage. If that was the case, then just how strong was this unremarkable cultivator before them, whose cultivation seemed to be at most in the nascent soul stage? Even Old Man Gu Qiong, Taoist Ji Yan, and Long Shenxi couldn't modify a tribulation transcendence cultivation method. However, this cultivator named Zhang Xiaohua had casually given it to the Heaven Alliance and the Dao Alliance. In that case, Old Man Gu Qiong and Long Shenxi, the number 1 expert of the Dao Alliance, weren't even worthy of carrying this cultivator's shoes. Oh, as for the remaining void refinement and Dao integration parts that are not in the jade slip, this old man will find a way to give them to you after modifying them. Xiaohua's words were truly shocking. As if he had thought of something, he casually said, However, tell Long Shenxi not to find a way to find this old man, and not to disturb this old man. Kong Jing and Master Bihu didn't speak. They couldn't measure Xiaohua's cultivation level, so they couldn't measure their own shock. In other words, the two of them could only express their feelings by saying that they were shocked beyond words. They could understand what Xiaohua had said earlier. After all, nascent soul cultivators would sometimes refer to nascent soul cultivation methods, and nascent soul cultivators would also refer to nascent soul cultivation methods. Therefore, when Xiaohua modified the void refinement cultivation method with his tribulation transcendence cultivation level, they only felt that Xiaohua was like a celestial being and was the number 1 person in the Yilin continent. However, Xiaohua said that he still wanted to cultivate the void refinement, and Dao integration cultivation methods in the nascent soul cultivation method. The reason why he hadn't modified them before was simply because he didn't have enough time. This wasn't a realm that cultivators in the mortal world could reach. No, even ordinary immortals in the immortal world couldn't have this kind of strength, right? These were 2 completely different paths of cultivation. What's wrong? Xiaohua was somewhat puzzled. He looked at the silent 2 and asked curiously, "Could it be that you want me to modify it now? I don't have that much time." Kong Jing struggled to close his mouth and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Even though he wanted to ask Xiaohua if he could really modify the primordial spirit cultivation method, he was not that stupid. He nodded vigorously and said respectfully, "I understand. I'll report this to the ancestor and ask him to copy these jade slips and give them to the Heavenly Alliance. I'll also pass Senior's words to the Alliance Master." When she spoke up to hear, Kong Jing hesitated for a moment, and then she withdrew a jade talisman that was shaped like a peacock from her bosom and respectfully passed it to Xiaohua as she said, "Senior Zhang, this is a token of my peacock villa. If you have the time, can you make a trip to the peacock villa? Oh, there's no need for you to go. You just have to activate this peacock illusion, and this junior will be able to sense it within 10,000 miles. This junior will definitely ask the old ancestor to personally invite Senior." Seeing the familiar peacock illusion, Xiaohua was somewhat surprised. He raised his hand and grabbed the peacock illusion. He didn't use his divine sense to examine it, and only used his eyes to carefully examine it. He said in pleasant surprise, "This is your peacock villa's jade talisman?" "Yes, this is my peacock villa's jade talisman." Seeing that Xiaohua was interested in this jade talisman, Kong Jing was very happy and said, "If Senior needs the cultivation method to make this jade talisman, this junior will present it to you." "Okay." Xiaohua nodded. Kong Jing hurriedly took out a rather simple and unadorned jade slip from her bosom and respectfully offered it to Xiaohua. Xiaohua looked at it and happily accepted it. Then he asked again, "Does your peacock villa only have this peacock illusion? Can you also refine the phoenix illusion?" "Of course." Kong Jing hurriedly replied. "The peacock illusion in this junior's hand is used for communication. The phoenix illusion is used for self-defense. My peacock villa also has the holy dragon illusion for attack." "Haha, so that's how it is." Xiaohua clapped and said with a smile, "Looks like this old man has some karma with the peacock villa. No wonder I could meet you here. Forget it. Since this is the case, this old man will give you some other cultivation methods of the peacock villa." While speaking, Xiaohua took out some jade slips and some medicinal pills and gave them to Kong Jing. Although Kong Jing didn't know what karma Xiaohua was talking about, seeing Xiaohua like this, how could she not know that Xiaohua favored the peacock villa? She hurriedly took the jade slips and thanked him respectfully. "As for you," Xiaohua finally looked at the excited Kong Jing and thought for a while. He took out a jade bottle and handed it to Kong Jing, saying, "You have bad intentions and offended this senior. This is an unforgivable crime. However, this old man will give you a spiritual pill. If you can refine it within 1,000 years, your primordial spirit will definitely grow several times stronger. You can expect to reach the Dao integration stage." Many thanks, Senior." Kong Jing was about to cry. That year, Old Man Peacock had already said that his aptitude was extraordinary, but it would stop at the void refinement stage. Now he had profited from a disaster. Even he didn't dare to believe it. "Don't thank this old man." Xiaohua handed the jade bottle to him and said, "You have to thank the unknown senior of your peacock villa from who knows how many years ago. In the future, you have to do more good deeds and accumulate more power for your descendants." "Yes, this junior understands." Kong Jing took the jade bottle and didn't dare to ask more. He carefully put away all the jade slips together with it. Go. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, I think the leaders of the Heavenly Alliance must be in a terrible situation now. Quickly send these jade slips to them. This junior will take my leave. Kong Jing knew that the matter was urgent and didn't dare to delay. He hurriedly bowed and said, This junior hopes that senior will come to my peacock villa when you have time. And this old man knows. Xiaohua nodded and watched Kong Jing leave. Senior. Seeing Kong Jing leave, Master Bihu hurriedly knelt down and said, This junior pleads for mercy on behalf of the cultivators outside the Heavenly Alliance. Please give this cultivation method to them. Xiaohua looked at Master Bihu. How could he not know that Master Bihu's original intention of asking for the cultivation method was 70% for himself and 30% for the other cultivators? However, he didn't mind. He smiled and waved his hand. He took out 4 jade slips and handed them to Master Bihu and said, Of course, take them. Xiaohua's generosity surprised the venerable Master Bihu. He had already prepared many excuses in his heart to persuade Xiaohua. But he really didn't expect Xiaohua to be so straightforward. He didn't even ask a single question, and directly gave the jade slip to him. This was simply treating this jade slip as a piece of cabbage. Master Bihu trembled as he received the jade slips. His mind was in a mess, and he didn't know what else to say. At this moment Xiaohua asked again, This old man wants to ask you, does your Tong Lake City have an auction house that can gather all the cultivators in Tong Lake City? Master Bihu answered without thinking, Reporting to senior, this junior has an auction house in Tong Lake City that can hold hundreds of thousands of people. Usually, the number of cultivators who come to Tong Lake City to bid in Tong Lake City is only slightly more than 100,000. Master Bihu was suddenly stunned. He realized that his answer was strange and hurriedly asked, Senior, did you just say, all the cultivators? Including those who come to sell? And the owners of those shops? That's right, all of them. Xiaohua nodded. Reporting to senior, this junior doesn't know much about the owners of the shops on the 1st and 6th floors. Junior's disciples are in charge of them. As for the 7th, 8th, and 9th floors, most of them are occupied by nearby sects and clans. In order to ensure their safety, this junior has set up a transportation array between these 3 floors and the auction house. If this junior activates the transportation array, as long as their strength is inferior to this junior, or they don't use their magic power, they can be directly transported to the auction house. As for the other floors, this junior needs to send disciples to inform them. However, this junior is afraid that the auction house won't be able to accommodate them. Xiaohua raised his eyebrows and asked, Are there any bids in the auction house right now? Senior, please wait a moment. Master Bihu said and hurriedly took out a jade slip. After looking at it for a moment, he said, Reporting to senior, there is a spirit beast bidding right now. As he spoke, the esteemed Master Bihu took out another artifact that looked like a book. He raised his hand and pointed at it. The book immediately flashed with dense spots of light. In just a moment, 80% of the book was filled. Master Bihu hurriedly raised his head and said, Reporting to senior, with the changes in the world's spiritual energy, the strength of spirit beasts has greatly increased. Therefore, as long as there is a spirit beast bidding, there will be a lot of cultivators coming to the auction house. Today, there are already 90,000 cultivators in the auction house. Vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it and give it a tip. Chapter 49-43. Master Bihu trembled as he put away the jade slip. His mind was in a mess, and he didn't know what else to say. At this moment, Xiaohua asked, Let me ask you, does your Tong Lake City have an auction house that can gather all the cultivators in the city? Master Bihu didn't even think before replying. Replying to senior, Junior has an auction house in Tong Lake City that can hold over 100,000 people. Normally, the number of cultivators that come to Tong Lake City to bid is only a little over 100,000. Master Bihu suddenly froze and realized that there was something wrong with his answer. He hastily asked, Did Senior just say, all the cultivators? Including those that come to sell? What about the owners of those shops? Correct, all of them. Xiaohua nodded. Replying to Senior, Junior doesn't know much about the store owners on the 1st and 6th floors. They are all handled by Junior's disciples. However, the 7th, 8th, and 9th floors are mostly occupied by the nearby sects and clans. In order to ensure their safety, Junior has set up a transportation formation between the 3 floors and the auction house. If Junior activates the transportation formation, as long as their strength is inferior to Junior's, or they don't use their magic power, they can be directly transported to the auction house. As for the other floors, Junior will need to send disciples to inform them. However, Junior is afraid that the auction house won't be able to accommodate them. Xiaohua raised his eyebrows and asked, "Are there any bids in the auction house right now?" "Senior, please wait a moment." Master Bihu hastily took out a jade slip and looked at it for a moment before saying, "Reporting to Senior, there is a spirit beast bidding right now." As he spoke, the esteemed Master Bihu took out another artifact that looked like a book. He raised his hand and pointed at it. The book immediately flashed with dense spots of light. In just a moment, 80% of the book was filled. Master Bihu hastily raised his head and said, "Reporting to Senior, with the changes in the world's spirit energy, the strength of spirit beasts has greatly increased. Therefore, as long as there is a spirit beast bidding, many cultivators will come to the auction house. Today, there are already 90,000 cultivators in the spirit beast auction. How about this?" Xiaohua pondered for a moment, then said with a smile, "This old man will follow you to the auction house and invite the owners of the stores on the 7th, 8th, and 9th floors, as well as the cultivators who are selling in these stores to the auction house. Senior, you want to?" Master Bihu seemed to understand what Xiaohua wanted to do, but he still couldn't believe it. Xiaohua smiled and said to Master Bihu, "What can this old man do?" The 4 jade strips were handed over to the Peacock Mountain Manor. However, how could this old man know if they could deliver them to the Heavenly Alliance? Even if it was sent to the Heaven Alliance, I wouldn't know if Long Shenxi would be so generous as to give it to the Tao Alliance. Therefore, this old man has to prepare for a rainy day. Master Bihu hurriedly nodded and said, Yes, you're right. Elder Peacock will give the jade slips to the Heaven Alliance, but no one can guarantee that the Heaven Alliance will give the jade slips to the Tao Alliance, or that the jade slips they give the Tao Alliance will be complete. At this point, Master Bihu took a deep breath and said, "Even if I take these 4 jade slips and want to bid for them, I have to consider the Heaven Alliance's attitude." "It's good that you know." Xiaohua nodded. "Those 4 jade strips are the price for this old man borrowing your auction house." I don't dare. Master Bihu smiled apologetically and said, "It's my honor to be able to help you. Moreover, once your cultivation method is sold in my Tong Lake auction house, this old man will become famous in Tong Lake City. You should also be prepared to be taught a lesson by the Heavenly Alliance." Xiaohua said meaningfully, "Yes, I understand." Master Bihu nodded and raised his hand, saying, "Senior, please." The Tong Lake Auction Hall was an extremely large auction hall. Tens of thousands of cultivators dressed in cloaks that covered their faces were seated in various places. Each of them was shouting loudly with excitement. At this moment on the high platform, where the water was gushing out like a fountain, a beast egg that was over 10 zhang in size was emitting a milky white halo. This beast egg was very strange. Not only did the halo seem to be solid, it rushed to the high platform and slightly rotated, but it did not dissipate immediately. The aura that the halo emitted when it flashed also covered an area of several hundred feet to the left of the high platform. This fellow cultivator bids 177,000 top-grade crystals. In the sky not far from the beast egg, a young scholar dressed in a Confucian robe held a folding fan in his hand and pointed at a book-like magic weapon with a smile. He raised his hand and pointed at a cultivator, who raised his hand to point at a book-like magic weapon. He said, "Who else wants to bid? This is a rare winged strange beast. Its newborn has the strength of the 10th level of Qi refining. I bid 200,000. A hoarse voice that was obviously transformed by a cloak sounded from the corner. The scholar was overjoyed and raised his folding fan again, shouting, "Okay, this one." However, just as the scholar was speaking, two balls of aqua blue light appeared on the gushing spring platform like a stream of water. As the balls of light rotated, two muffled pops rang out, like the explosion of a candle. The light shattered and two human figures were revealed from the light and shadow. The scholar who presided over the auction was stunned. Seeing that it was Master Bihu in front of him, he hurriedly bowed and said, "This subordinate greets Master Bihu. Does Master Bihu have any orders?" "Stop all auctions. Senior Zhang has important matters to attend to." Master Bihu's face was solemn as he ordered, "Withdraw first. Immediately activate the transportation formations on the 7th, 8th, and 9th floors." Ah! The scholar was stunned. He stole a glance at Xiao Hua beside Master Bihu and hurriedly whispered, "Master Bihu, the young sect master of the spiritual magpie sect, and the 7th leader of the Yuzhong Immortal Alliance, are all in the auction house. How about you wait for this subordinate to sell the beast egg first? Go quickly." Master Bihu frowned and waved his hand. "No need to be long-winded." "Yes." The scholar didn't dare to say anything else. He glanced at the beast egg and waved his hand. A splash of water rushed out from the high platform and enveloped his body, causing him to disappear in an instant. Master Bihu. At this moment, a short cultivator arrogantly stood up from his seat and shouted, "What is the meaning of this? This old man is bidding according to your Tong Lake City's rules. How can you break your own rules? If you don't want to establish yourself in Tong Lake City, you can tell this old man." This old man remembers that many cultivators have mentioned this to this old man before. That's right. Without waiting for the cultivator to finish speaking, a beautiful woman stood up diagonally across from him and said with a charming smile, "This old woman also wants to see who will be able to win the bid for the winged heavenly beast egg today. If you don't continue bidding for the beast egg, this old woman will tear down your Tong Lake City. Vote for it, vote for it. Give it a recommendation vote, collect it and give it a tip. Sorry, I sent the wrong message at noon. Please update. There's nothing to say." Chapter 49-44. Oh seniors. Master Bihu's expression tightened when he saw the two of them speak. He didn't dare to be negligent and hastily bowed. Junior's disciple has already reported to Junior. Humph. At this moment Xiao Hua, who was next to Master Bihu, coldly snorted. This old man has some important matters to attend to and needs to borrow Tong Lake City's auction house. When this old man is done, you two can show off your worth. Damn it, you're... The two cultivators were furious at the same time. Just as they were about to curse, a tribulation transcending cultivators' pressure emerged from Xiao Hua's body like a stormy sea. It roared and rushed around the auction house. In just a moment, the pressure enveloped the entire auction house. Not to mention the other cultivators in the auction house. Even the two cultivators who were called seniors by Master Bihu couldn't help but tremble under this pressure. They cried out in alarm, say, "Senior, please spare us." Little cultivators who haven't even reached the Dao integration stage actually dare to be arrogant in front of this old man. Xiao Hua coldly said, "You're just bidding for a strange beast, yet you still want to show off your arrogance. How can any auction house break the rules unless there's an urgent matter? If this old man wasn't here, how could Master Bihu dare to offend you for no reason? You can't even understand this simple logic. Have you two cultivated your cultivation to become dogs?" Yes, Junior knows his mistake, Junior knows his mistake. In the face of Xiao Hua's pressure that was like the firmament, the two cultivators didn't even dare to breathe loudly. They could only apologize in a low voice. Crack! At this moment a soft sound rang out. The winged sky strange beast egg, that was originally flickering with a milky white halo, suddenly cracked open. A bare dragon-like beast head poked out. This so-called winged sky strange beast's eyes still hadn't opened. It opened its mouth and made a jiji sound, as if it was calling for something. The beast head was indeed turning towards Xiao Hua. Oh! Xiao Hua was somewhat astonished. He looked at this cute beast cub in amazement, because he felt a trace of his pressure being swallowed by the beast cub. Interesting. Xiao Hua smiled faintly, and withdrew his pressure. Gigi, the winged sky's strange beast seemed to have lost its target and began to make random noises. Senior, Master Emerald Lake said with a smile. Senior's pressure caused this winged sky beast to appear. It probably treats you as a family member. Now, even if the winged sky beast was sold to anyone else, it probably wouldn't be able to recognize anyone as its master. If Senior doesn't mind, this Junior will offer this strange beast to Senior. What do I want this winged heavenly beast for? Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had a lot of spiritual pets in his space. Which one of them wasn't a peerless creature? Senior, the beautiful woman hurriedly smiled and said, "This is fate. Your aura has already been absorbed by the winged sky beast. In fact, it has already recognized you as its master. There's no point in bidding for it anymore." All right. Xiaohua nodded helplessly. He waved his hand and took the winged heavenly beast and the broken egg. When the winged heavenly beast smelled Xiaohua's aura, it immediately quieted down. It shrank back into the egg and began to devour it bit by bit. Wang Wang. At this moment, hundreds of reefs appeared around the high platform. They let out a rumbling sound amidst the splashes of water. Xiaohua knew that this was the restriction to activate the transmission array. He didn't have time to carefully look at the winged sky beast. He patted the broken egg with his hand and put the strange beast and the egg into his space. Senior, please wait a moment. Master Emerald Lake hurriedly formed a seal and hit each of the reefs. He said, Junior will invite them over. All right. Xiaohua slightly nodded and said, When you need this old man, just say the word. Yes. Master Emerald Lake responded. His whole body produced illusions of splashes of water and fell into the reefs. The reefs in the illusions began to dim and gradually disappeared. Ka. Following the disappearance of the reefs, layers of stone steps appeared in the sky above the auction house. They let out a crisp sound and extended towards Master Emerald Lake. Moreover, following the appearance of the stone steps, cultivators with puzzled and dissatisfied faces appeared on the stone steps. However, these cultivators looked at Master Emerald Lake and Xiaohua on the high platform, as well as the cultivators in the auction house. They looked at each other and didn't ask any questions. After 5 minutes, Master Emerald Lake wiped the sweat from his forehead. He looked at the 13 reefs in front of him and said in a low voice, Senior, there are 13 other shops with cultivators who are stronger than me. Boom! Xiaohua didn't say anything. He raised his right hand, and a huge thunderous hand covered an area of more than 300 meters around him. Although the aura of this thunderous hand was restrained, the cultivators on the stone steps were clearly shocked. The dissatisfaction on their faces was replaced by puzzlement. They didn't dare to have any distracting thoughts. Crack. Following the descent of Xiaohua's hand of lightning, the 13 reefs were instantly extinguished like candles in the wind. At the same time, several tens of rows of stone steps appeared in the vicinity of the flight of stairs in midair. Moreover, there were many furious cultivators standing on the core stone steps. Damn it! An old man wearing a high hat and a wide belt cursed. Master Emerald Lake, do you want to die? Cough. Xiaohua lightly coughed and said in a clear voice, This old man has something to talk to you about. You? The old man was a little stunned. However, when he saw Xiaohua's appearance, he couldn't help but exclaim, Zhang Xiaohua? Yes, that's me. Xiaohua glanced at him and said with a smile, It seems like you're a member of the Heaven Alliance. That's right. I'm the leader of the Wind Immortal Alliance, Wanderer Bayan. As the old man spoke, his figure moved slightly. Master Emerald Lake hurriedly shouted, Senior Bayan, please wait a moment. Please let Senior Zhang finish speaking. If you want to die, feel free to attack. Xiaohua looked indifferently at Wanderer Bayan and said, This old man's anger has been provoked several times today. This old man can't bear it anymore. Wanderer Bayan was not intimidated by Xiaohua. The corner of his mouth slightly raised, as if he was laughing at something. However, at this moment his figure stiffened. He lowered his head and looked at a place. Then, he looked at Xiaohua in disbelief. His eyes flashed with horror. Xiaohua had already heard the beautiful woman's voice transmission to Wanderer Bayan. He didn't say much and said, "Everyone, this old man will borrow Tong Lake City's auction house to sell a few things. The first is a complete spiritual root selection method. The second is a complete nascent soul cultivation method, from chi refinement to tribulation transcendence. The third is a primordial spirit cultivation method, from essence refinement to void. These 3 cultivation methods have all been modified by this old man. They are all cultivation methods for spiritual roots. The jade slips for each cultivation method are 100 top-grade crystals each. No bargaining." "What?" Wanderer Bayan exclaimed. What are you talking about?" "Master Emerald Lake." Xiao Hua ignored Wanderer Bayan and said, "How about I ask the disciples of Tong Lake City to help this old man?" "Senior, don't worry." Master Bihu was very confident. He raised his hand, formed an incantation gesture, and hit the high platform. With a swish 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 sound, the water below the high platform began to churn. The water turned into tens of thousands of waves that surged out from the high platform and landed in front of Xiao Hua's eyes. At the same time, the waves rushed towards the stone steps and the cultivators sitting below the stone steps. A wave appeared in front of every cultivator. Master Bihu then said, "Disciples, you don't need to help. Although there are many cultivators here, the 3 peerless cultivation methods are only worth 300 top-grade crystals in total. No one will be stingy. They only need to put the 300 top-grade crystals in the waves in front of them, and the crystals will be sent to you." Woo-woo. Not waiting for Master Bihu to finish speaking, there were already 2 flashes in the waves not far from Xiao Hua. 600 top-grade crystals were revealed. Haha, not bad. Xiao Hua flicked his sleeve and put away the top-grade crystals. The 6 jade slips were also placed in the 2 waves. As soon as the jade slips touched the waves, they disappeared. "Thank you, Senior Zhang." At the edge of the auction, 2 very high-pitched voices called out. Then they asked, "Master Emerald Lake, can we leave?" "Everyone, this auction is different from the previous ones. If anyone wants to leave, you can leave at any time." Master Emerald Lake hurriedly said, "This is also Senior Zhang's order. My Tong Lake City will absolutely not record any traces of cultivators." "All right. Thank you for your trouble, Master Emerald Lake." While speaking, 2 figures flashed and disappeared in a moment. Woo-woo. Soon after, countless sobbing sounds came from the waves in front of Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua didn't say anything more. With a wave of his sleeve, he put the crystals into his space, and the jade slips inside. Senior Zhang. Wanderer Baiying still wanted to say something, but when he saw the waves in front of Xiao Hua rapidly disappear, and the number of cultivators bidding on the stone steps to the left and below the stone steps to the left were decreasing, he didn't dare to say anything more. He hastily put the 300 top-grade crystals into the waves in front of him. A moment later, 3 jade slips appeared, and the waves disappeared. Wanderer Baiying picked up the jade slips and scanned them with his divine sense. Hiss! Wanderer Baiying sucked in a breath of cold air. His expression changed several times. He opened his mouth to ask something, but after a second thought, he rushed out of the auction. After a full hour, the waves in front of Xiao Hua had decreased by 70%. To the side, Master Emerald Lake was also dumbfounded. His auction could accommodate a total of 160,000 cultivators bidding at the same time. After entering and using the transmission array, there should be 180,000 cultivators bidding in the auction. 70% was nearly 130,000 cultivators. Not to mention how many top-grade crystals Xiao Hua had taken out. Just the jade slips Xiao Hua had taken out were nearly 400,000. He really couldn't imagine where Xiao Hua had gotten so many jade slips, and how much time he had spent inscribing cultivation techniques into them. Senior. Suddenly, a cultivator shouted. This junior didn't expect that Senior would sell cultivation techniques, so this junior used his spirit beast to bid for a lot of other things. Do you think this junior can use other things to exchange for your cultivation techniques? P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, reward it, and thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 49-45. Of course, Xiaohua didn't hesitate at all. He smiled and said, "This old man likes all kinds of strange things. You can give them all to me." "Thank you, Senior. Thank you, Senior." The cultivator was overjoyed. How could he not know that this was Xiaohua's generosity? He immediately placed a storage ring on the water and shouted, "This is what this junior brought to Tong Lake City this time. It contains the gains of this junior from this experience." Seeing that the storage ring was placed in front of Xiaohua, who accepted it without even looking at it, and offered 3 jade slips, how could the remaining cultivators not know what Xiaohua was thinking? None of them dared to hesitate, and placed their storage rings on the table. This time it was even faster. In just the time it took to eat a meal, the water in front of Xiaohua was gone. In the entire auction hall, there was no one else except Xiaohua, Master Bihu, and the other disciples of Tong Lake City. "Senior," Master Bihu smiled bitterly and said, "You suffered a big loss in the end. Not every cultivator who came to the auction hall could take out 300 top-grade crystals." "It doesn't matter." Xiaohua shrugged and transmitted his voice. "Only the heavens know whether I suffered a loss or not. This old man doesn't know. You don't know. And they don't know either." "Master Bihu, thank you very much this time. This is a rejuvenation pill that this old man refined. When your lifespan is nearing its end, you can try to take one. This old man is going." After he finished speaking, Xiaohua's figure flashed and disappeared from where he stood. All that could be seen was a jade bottle floating in the air. Senior Zhang. Master Bihu knew that Xiaohua would leave, but he didn't expect that Xiaohua would leave just like that. He couldn't help but release his divine sense and call out loudly. Unfortunately, whether it was the auction hall or the 9th floor, there was no trace of Xiaohua. Alas! Knowing that Xiaohua had already left Tong Lake City, esteemed Master Bihu heaved a sigh and withdrew his divine sense. With a longing look on his face he whispered, "Senior Zhang, you're really elusive." Afterwards, Master Bihu's gaze fell on the jade bottle. Only now did he remember what Xiaohua said before he left. His heart burned with passion, and he couldn't help but open the jade bottle. However, there was no medicinal fragrance in the jade bottle that he usually smelled. When he took out the rejuvenation pill, he saw that its appearance was unremarkable, and the surface of the pill was covered with runes that looked like seals. Master Bihu's hand trembled, and he almost dropped the rejuvenation pill on the ground. He hurriedly looked left and right. Seeing that there were no other people around, he took a deep breath and put the pill into the jade bottle. Then, he stuck a few talismans on the jade bottle and carefully put it away. "Guards!" Master Emerald Lake raised his voice and shouted. "City Lord!" The scholar who was in charge of the auction immediately flew over and bowed. "Do you have any orders?" Master Emerald Lake thought for a while and ordered, "Fu Hong, close the auction temporarily. Wait for my orders when it's reopened." The scholar named Fu Hong hurriedly asked, "What about the auction that was arranged beforehand? What should we do?" "Inform them that everything will be postponed." Master Emerald Lake waved his hand and said, "If they suffer any losses, they can report a number. Tong Lake City will compensate them." "Yes, your subordinate understands." Fu Hong nodded and noted it down. Then he said in a low voice, "Your subordinate has just received a report that the shops on the 7th and 8th floors are completely deserted. 60% of the shops are closed. Your subordinate has also found out that 30% of the shops are empty. Alas, Senior Zhang is so calculative." Master Emerald Lake sighed and said, he was afraid that the Heaven Alliance would do something. He also guessed that there would be spies from the Dao Alliance in Tong Lake City. Therefore, he gave the cultivation method to the Dao Alliance through the auction. Hundreds of thousands of cultivation method jade slips have been sent to every corner of the Yilin continent, with Tong Lake City as the center. Ha ha ha, Senior Zhang's wish has been fulfilled. Tong Lake City will definitely be engraved on the pillars of history. Come pass down my order. Other than the disciples on duty, all the disciples will enjoy spiritual wine and spiritual fruits, and rest for 3 days. Yes, your subordinate understands. Fu Hong smiled and hurriedly agreed. However, he did not rush to pass down the order. Instead, He continued to look at Master Emerald Lake with a smile. Master Emerald Lake was not surprised. After pondering for a while, he said, "Let all the teams report the names of their disciples. I will consider and distribute the cultivation methods." "Thank you, City Lord. Thank you, City Lord." Fu Hong was overjoyed. He bowed and said, "Your subordinate will thank the City Lord on behalf of the disciples. In the future, our cultivation will not stagnate for months and years. If you want to thank someone, thank Senior Zhang." Master Emerald Lake sighed. Looking at the empty auction, he said, "If not for Senior Zhang, how could we have obtained this cultivation method jade slip? However, don't expect too much. This modified cultivation method jade slip is actually a treasure book for the future disciples of the Heavenly Alliance. It may not be very effective for our current cultivation." "I understand. I will tell the disciples." Fu Hong suppressed the ecstasy in his heart and replied, Go. Remember, quickly send disciples to contact the Heavenly Alliance and report this matter." Master Emerald Lake waved his hand and said, "I'm going to get drunk." Perhaps when I wake up, the Heavenly Alliance will send someone here. Master Emerald Lake suddenly stopped and revealed an inexplicable expression. Fu Hong did not dare to ask more. He stole a glance at Master Emerald Lake. Master Emerald Lake ignored Fu Hong and thought quickly, "Damn it, I have always regarded Senior Zhang as a kind person. But now that I think about it carefully, if Senior Zhang was malicious about Kong Jing's offense, he could have made some minor changes to the cultivation method he gave to the Peacock Manor. Elder Peacock gave this cultivation method to the Heavenly Alliance. If Alliance leader Long Shenxi found that the cultivation method of the Peacock Manor was different from other cultivation methods, then how would he deal with the Peacock Manor? Moreover, Kong Jing attacked Senior Zhang as soon as he arrived, although his original intention was to capture him and claim credit. But looking at the situation, it was possible that he wanted to kill Senior Zhang. How could Senior Zhang forgive him so easily? Senior Zhang thought that Kong Jing was a junior, so he did not kill him. He only destroyed his bloodline Dharma body. But then he gave him many elixirs and told him that as long as he cultivated well, he could integrate with the Tao. Damn it, integrate with the Tao. So many cultivators dream of integrating with the Tao. Kong Jing's aptitude is ordinary. How could he integrate with the Tao? Could it be that Senior Zhang wanted to kill him by flattery again? Did he pretend that Kong Jing had excellent aptitude and gave him many elixirs and told him to cultivate at will? When he reached the high level, Kong Jing would not be able to control his realm and finally die from Qigong deviation. If that's the case, then Senior Zhang. When he thought of this, Master Bihu did not dare to think any further. He looked at the respectful Fu Hong, then waved his hand impatiently and said, "Go, do as this old man says. I'll take my leave." Fu Hong bowed and flew out of the auction house. Master Bihu threw away his speculation and looked around the deathly silent auction house again. He almost could not believe that in this auction house that he had been managing for thousands of years, something that could change the situation of the Heaven Alliance, and even the Tao Alliance had happened just now. Venerable Master Bihu thought that Xiaohua had already left Tong Lake City, but he was wrong. Xiaohua teleported out of the auction house, and his figure and appearance instantly transformed. He passed through a few layers of restrictions and landed on the 5th floor. The place where Xiaohua's figure landed was at a fork in an aqua blue-colored small path. After slightly turning around, he entered another small path. At the end of this small path was a small pavilion. At this moment, there were 2 cultivators walking on the path, talking and laughing. They did not notice that there was a slightly handsome nascent soul cultivator behind them. Xiaohua entered the small pavilion and saw that it was a store that sold pill recipes. After looking through the jade slip that recorded the pill recipes, he very generously bought the majority of the pill recipes and then left the store. The owner of the store respectfully sent Xiaohua out, then pointed out the place that sold the method of refining tools. Only after that did he happily return. Xiaohua then walked around the 5th floor for less than an hour. On one hand, he bought various jade slips, and on the other, he checked out the aftermath of the auction house incident. He did not know whether it was because the 5th floor was too far away from the 9th floor, or because the disciples of Tong Lake City were very tight-lipped and kept it a secret. But almost nothing happened on the 5th floor. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Chidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, or give it a tip. That you're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.